Good evening, everybody. This is the Auburn Finance Committee. Today is March 4th, 2026. It is 5:31 p.m. Allow me to read the remote participation script. This open meeting of the Town of Auburn Finance Committee is being conducted both in person and remotely, consistent with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, which suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed to participate remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For the public to join the meeting remotely by telephone, dial 1-408-650-3123 and enter access code 983-263-437, or the public can join via computer at meet.goto.com/Auburn Select Board Room. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Please note this meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. Is anyone else recording the meeting? Seeing none. All the committee members are present. However, we do have some town officials that are with us remotely. Town Manager Dory Vecchio is with us remote. And I believe DPW Director Joanna Paquin is with us remotely as well. No need for roll calls as we're all present. Good evening to both of you that are here remotely. Thank you. Relative to the agenda this evening, can we take a motion to move up the transfers? We have a couple department heads that have other commitments that.
Did we take the review of one of the item? Three up to.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to move transfers up to the front of the line. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, first one is from the fire department. This is the, coming from the salary reserve fund. Name is given admin assistance. Amount requested $3,756. Reason given, cost of GEU contract settlement and payout to retired employee.
If I could, this is one of the remaining transfers to settle the union contracts and the increases for the bylaw
Okay.
employees.
Motion to approve?
No questions? We have motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next one also from the fire department. This one is coming from the health and wellness account, going to the license and certifications account. Amount requested $4,956.36. Reason given, covers shortfall in the account. Chief Coleman, do you have something on this one?
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. The health and wellness account we won't have any additional spending out of that this year. All of the cancer and heart screenings have been completed for the members, so that is a remaining balance. It's being transferred to license and certification for two reasons. With the addition of the new staff, there was an additional $1,300 some odd dollars for reimbursement for EMT and paramedic recertification for those members who are up this year. And additionally, in the license line, for the first time, we have licensed two of our fire engines, the lead engine out of headquarters and the lead engine out of West Street. Those will be licensed at the paramedic level. So we will be able to provide advanced life support care at the paramedic level off the engine in the event that there's not an ambulance on scene or while we're waiting for mutual aid. So that was, I don't want to say it wasn't anticipated, but it wasn't budgeted this year. But the additional cost of those licenses has been reflected in the FY27 budget.
Questions for the chief on?
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next one from the police department. This is from the salary reserve fund, going to supplies. Amount requested $2,564. Reason given, increase in clothing allowance per new union contract and new employee hire.
Chair, I just have one question, and it's for you, Karen. So I know traditionally we've only really moved money out of the salary reserve line into salary budget items. Is this like allowed? Are we allowed to do this? I don't know if these are just rules that we place on ourselves or what, but when I saw this, I was confused why it didn't come out of the regular reserve account. It came out of salary reserve.
It's actually, with us having the two reserves, the regular reserve and the salary, when we're going through our financial management review now, I think they're going to have some comments on that, because I don't know necessarily that we're supposed to have like a separate salary reserve. So this is something that the town, like you said, kind of does on its own kind of thing. So the reason why I took it out of the salary is because it was part of the union contract negotiations.
Chief, you have anything on this one?
No, that's exactly what it was. Thank you.
Any questions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Next one from the cemetery, from the salary reserve fund, going to the clerical account. Amount requested $464. Amount requested will be used for the following extraordinary and/or unforeseen expenditures. I'm sorry, cost of GEU contract settlement.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion, you have questions, sir?
No, I was going to say,
Getting ahead? Sure.
beat me to it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
From the reserve fund, DPW fleet maintenance is requesting, this one's a number. Amount requested $100,000, going to DPW fleet maintenance. Reason given, price increases and unexpected breakdowns. Joanna, you have some insight on this one for us?
Thank you. Yeah, so we're requesting $100,000 at this point. About $75,000 is we already have in bills, in invoices. We had some larger repairs, but overall, it's been the storms that have been the issue. It's a combination of things. The fact that we've had several storms back to back, so only given a few days in between storms, our mechanic wasn't able to get a lot of repairs done in-house like he would want to. Those needed to be sent out just so that we can have that equipment back for the next coming storm. And then overall, just it's been a longer winter. We've had much more severe storms, so it's been much more wear and tear on the vehicles themselves.
Questions?
I'm assuming that with the weather starting to take a turn here, that this is probably the tail end of what you guys are expecting for the, storm-related maintenance.
We're still, yes, I'm hoping that, we're close to the end of the winter. Last night was not easy. And we didn't have any major breakdowns, but we do have a truck down currently. So our mechanic is just waiting for time and resources to get that back up. But we were down a truck last night. Again, hopefully since we're in March, we're not going to be dealing with this much longer.
One last thing, I'm not a mechanic by any means, so you don't need to get into the details of it all, but I'm assuming that the repairs and things needed right now doesn't have any impact on like SIP or anything we should be worried about, like replacement vehicles or anything like that. This is just standard wear and tear, just hit at an inopportune time.
So yeah, it's wear and tear. The storms, because they're we've had some longer duration storms, based on what, I'm not a mechanic, so I can't speak too much about this, but because the trucks are running for longer periods of time and they're only able to go at a low speed because they're salting, that's a heavier, it creates more problems for the vehicles. So in combination with the salt, the weight of the salt, the vehicles are weighed down, so we had repairs with suspension systems. The corrosion, the corrosive properties of the salt are also an issue. So he's had to fix mufflers and parts that just are eaten away by the salt. So as great as it works on ice and snow, it's not great for our equipment.
I guess I do have a question. So relative to, remind me on how our accounts are set up again. At one point, we were all divided up. Are we a townwide fleet under DPW fleet maintenance, or is this just solely your budget?
This is just the DPW portion of the fleet maintenance budget.
Okay. Because I was going to say, if you've already encumbered 75,000 of that 100,000, plus the 1,000 that's left in the account, 26,000 doesn't seem like a big number to get the entire fleet. But, and at this point, without, are there things that would be pushed off if they weren't able to be completed within this fiscal year, as opposed to coming back and asking for more money this fiscal year? If we don't have storm, I guess it's hard to predict relative to storm equipment, but are there other things that may have to wait?
There might be. I'm hoping not to, but there's a possibility that we might have to wait until the next budget.
Any additional questions? Patrick?
Through the chair, I just wanted to ask, when you come in for your budget in a couple of weeks, if, while we have you, could we get an update on what our year-to-date snow removal expense has been, so that we're prepared to address that as well? Just wanted to ask while we had you.
So, snow and ice in general, or the motor vehicle?
The year-to-date expense on the removal, the salt
Okay.
and sand and payroll.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions on this one? Have a motion?
Motion approved.
Have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one, Packet Truck Golf Course. Regular transfer coming from the contingency account. Amount requested $24, going to the director's account. Reason given, 1% bylaw employee increase.
Motion approved.
Second.
No questions. Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Also from the contingency account, amount requested $873, going to the superintendent's account. Reason given, 1% bylaw employee increase.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. This one, we do have three, if anybody wants to, this is from the sewer
Make a
department.
motion that we take the three as well.
And we have a motion and a second to take these three, all coming from contingency as one. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'll read them off. From contingency, amount requested $24, going to the director's account, a 1% bylaw increase. From contingency, $39, going to operations manager for the 1% bylaw increase. And this one also contingency, amount requested $16,073, going to the wages account. Reason given, union contract settlement. Any questions on these?
Motion approved.
We have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, coming from the salary reserve account, this is from the treasurer collector's office, going to the clerical account, amount requested $2,553. Reason, amount needed to cover wages through 6/30/26 after filling all open clerical positions.
Motion to approve.
Any questions before we? No? We have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor? From salary reserve fund, this is also treasurer collector. Going to the treasurer/collector salary, amount requested $21,724. This is reason given, the cost of assistance from retired treasurer/collector for 15 hours per week through 6/30/26. Any questions on this one? We do have Kate Spanos, yeah. I think you may have alluded to this one when you were with us previously, but just remind us since we're discussing this.
Thank you. So as I had mentioned last week, we currently have Mary Ann Murphy on board about 15 hours a week. We're an office full of new employees. As I'm still trying to onboard my new staff, I have Mary Ann in on a part-time basis to still mentor us, tutor us, and to keep us afloat. My concern is year end is under 4 months away. I have my deadline to get everything to the state, like, I'm begging to see if we can keep Mary Ann on a little bit longer.
Just on a note relative to retirees coming back as post-retirement or whatever terminology is utilized, there are multiple benefits beyond their experience they bring to the office, because we're really just paying a salary, right? We're no longer paying benefits. So we're kind of getting the best of both worlds to bring some of these folks back as far as a value, a cost value for the community. Am I correct in that?
That's
assessment?
correct. Yes.
Questions on this one?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, this one is from Auburn Cable Television, from the contingency account. Amount requested $2,736 going to the salary account. Reason given by law, employee 1% increase. Any questions?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion to take the next three as one, since they're all
Going
going
to
to
be library. We have a motion to take all three going to library materials as one. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'll read them off, and I believe we have the library director with us, and maybe we can go over these when we, after we read them off. So computer services, amount requested $3,000 going to library materials. I'm going to read the reason on here. We will likely not expend the remainder of this account this fiscal year, and community has requested an increase in new materials. Sure you'll be able to go over all the details of why we're requesting this. From programs, amount requested $5,000 going to library materials. And from assistant director, amount requested $5,000, also going to library materials. And thank you. Can you give us some explanation other than what you tried to squeeze in the small box there?
Yeah, sure. So as it says in the description, we recently completed our new strategic plan. And one of the goals of that is to expand materials, particularly popular and new materials. These accounts, so computers, programs, the assistant director position, that was just money that was kind of left there to keep that position open, which we'll get into a little bit in my budget presentation. So that wasn't really going for anything else right at the moment. And computers and programs, we've just hired a programming librarian. So she is likely not going to get through the entire rest of that budget this fiscal year. And computers, we've, fingers crossed so far, we've got a few months left, haven't needed to make a lot of repairs or replacements or anything this year. So this money would seem to be better served going into the collections, the materials.
Yeah, just
What is library materials? Just I don't.
Oh, yeah, sure.
What goes into that
Sorry.
bucket? If you could
So
clarify.
materials is just a blanket terminology for anything that circulates, that is lent out to patrons. So that's books, DVDs, music,
Any of that stuff.
anything, yeah.
Right. Thank you.
any additional questions?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
This one from Human Resources. This is coming from the HR Director / Assistant Town Manager account. Amount requested $5,000 going to the advertise account. Reason given, unforeseen amount of advertisements needed for employment job postings. Do you want to?
Sure, if I could. It was mentioned last week when Jillian was here that we do have and the town manager mentioned it as well, that we have had a lot of job openings this year. So we need to move some extra money into that line item.
Any questions on this one?
Motion to approve.
Motion a second. All in favor?
Aye.
From salary reserve, this is for general services. Going to the clerical account, amount requested $2,376. Reason given to cover cost of payout to retired employee.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
And from salary reserve, this is requested by Veteran Services, going to the salary account, amount requested $31. This is to cover the 1% salary increase per employee evaluation.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion approved and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, let's just do our transfers. Okay, back to the order. First one for our budgets this evening is information technology. Okay, we've got Mike Marino with us tonight. Good evening.
Good evening.
Did you want to give us an overview of your budget?
My budget is mostly comprised of annual renewals, maintenance contracts. Not much has changed on that. It's just annual increases to keep up with that support. We do have a couple new pieces we're adding in here. One is a request from DPW for a software for file sharing and editing. And we have another software for file shares for larger files. Sharing files through email, there's a hard limit, and we've run up against that where we're trying to send either flyers or, building plans, things that just can't be sent through email because they're too large. So this would allow us to send those out and securely receive those as well. Another one is an update to our employee portal. We have a portal in place right now where employees can input their time and get information. But there's an upgraded version that the company is pushing towards, and this would allow us to move to that, which would allow us to add more capabilities to that as well. And lastly, we want to add DPW permitting to the OpenGov platform that we're currently using for the building department and the town clerk.
Questions for Michael?
I have a question. You mentioned in your sort of overview that the endpoint protection increased due to it being a 3-year license. Is that because we're prepaying for 3 years?
No, it's a 3-year license that we're set that price for 3 years, but we're paying it a third of each year. So this is part of that.
So it increased even though we were willing to give them longer term? It doesn't surprise me like a lot, but
There is a discount. I don't know the exact discount on it, but it is discounted.
I don't expect you to know all this off the top of your head, so it's okay.
It didn't increase from last year for the import protection. That's the same amount that I believe last year it increased because we added a different capability to it as well. But last year we had started with the first year, or this current year is the first year of the 3-year term. So this FY27 would be the second year.
Additional questions?
I guess just generally, obviously IT costs are going up. Are there any programs that we expect to have to renegotiate coming up in the next few years? Most of these are short-term licenses, so I assume we're negotiating them every year, but like, I know we just got on board with OpenGov. Like, how long is that price locked in? How long are we attempting to sort of leverage longer term for lower prices as much as possible?
As possible when we can. Most of these are built into contracts as generally like a 5% increase or something like that. I know like our website platform has that built into it every year. It's a 5% increase. OpenGov has a percentage increase every year. So those are things that we're aware of ahead of time, and they're part of that contract.
My last question, and I do apologize, only because I this is something I know well. How much of our like software and IT services do we try to purchase under like statewide contracts for discounts versus just you figuring out who offers it and going out and getting it yourself?
Most of the things we purchase are under state contracts. When something is brought to us or that we're looking for that isn't on it, we do request several quotes. Typically anywhere between 3 to 5 quotes just to try to get the best price.
I feel like I'm doing a bad job of selling what I'm trying to sell, which is I can't, like, you say this every year. I cannot believe that you're able to do what you do with the budget that you have. It's insane. I know that statewide obviously offer usually pretty good pricing. But the fact that you're able to like keep the town running and, you know, I'm not even going to say not have issues because the second I do, it'll be a problem. But like the fact that you're able to do what you do with the budget that you have is incredible. So
I know like when certain things that we purchase, like when we purchase computers, because of the amount that we get at a time, we usually get better discounts that aren't on a state contract, but we do push out to get different quotes just to see what the best option is.
makes sense.
Additional questions? Michael took my one line that I say every single year.
I'm sorry.
I can't believe that you run, you know.
It's because I feel like it sounded like I was being negative, and I realized in the moment, like, no, this is.
Take my positive spin. Okay, that's good. But technology certainly is something that evolves faster than at least me as, you know, as a layman can even try and keep up with it. Andy brought up at the last meeting, you know, AI entering the realm, you know, malware and cyber attacks. And I feel like your budget is so always like level, you know, is there enough there? And what protections do we have? You don't have to divulge what we have in place, but, you know, are we in a good spot? I mean, everything revolves around technology now.
Yeah, we do have multi-layers of protection involved in this. So, I mean, there's always, you know, vulnerabilities that come out, but we do try to stay on top of those.
In yours, you know, I think your budget is what we've seen in the past, which is department request matches exactly as the town manager's request. Was there anything that you went to the table for? Dory's shaking her head no. Was there anything you went to the table for that you didn't get or you were seeking out?
Honestly, the only thing that we almost didn't get was the DPW permitting for OpenGov, because that was a significant increase, but they were able to find a way to add that in, so that was great.
So Kevin kind of brought up, I asked about AI last week, and I'll just kind of expound upon that because the SaaS companies have taken a pretty good beating because of the quick upgrading with AI. Do you see that being beneficial to a department like yours over the next 3-4 years, or do you think that those SaaS programs are going to get minimized as AI takes over, or I'll just kind of get your idea on that?
Yeah, it's honestly it's up in the air right now. Like it can go either way. We try to keep an eye on things, the trends, and see how they go, but it's just something that I just can't really predict at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Fair. I think a lot of people are in that boat,
Yeah.
including myself. Thank you.
Any additional questions, Michael?
Motion to recommend?
So I'm just going to, the total budget as recommended by the town manager is $475,987. And we have a motion to recommend.
Motion to recommend.
Second, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. While we've got you, before you leave, we'll probably do department by department CIP while we've got them here. Do you have anything, or you do have some things on here, right? School year?
It's got the storage.
Do you have your CIP in front of you, or you do? Anything, do you want to go over anything on there, or?
For upcoming FY27, we're replacing another third of the computers. That keeps them in line with the 5-year replacement schedule. We also have an item to replace one of the storage devices, and that will keep that as a 5-year schedule as well.
So have you made any transitions? I know the agency I work for has moved away from desktops, because people were having laptops and desktops, and now it seems to be going more laptops that are docking stations, so there's one computer per person as opposed to having their desktop and then taking home a laptop for a variety of reasons. Is that something that we're moving towards?
Not at the moment. We're still replacing desktops for the most part. Desktops are, it's actually cheaper to get a desktop than a laptop. And for the most part, people have their offices where they work, and there's not a lot of mobility for the laptops. We do have a fleet of laptops that are still out and in use for certain people.
Any other questions on CIP? Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Services. Public services.
Number, from Department of Public Services, number 541.
Hi, good evening.
Thank you for being here. Do you want to go over your budget
Sure.
this evening?
So I gave everyone, just for your review, is one of our newsletters that we have, and if you kind of look through it, it will give you our calendar, our ongoing activities, exercise classes, the different programs that we have, so just if you want to take a look at that. I just wrote up kind of like a little bit just about the senior center, so that other people at home can know what we do. So again, my name's Jean Boulette, and I'm the director of the senior center. We have me that works 37 and a half hours, outreach coordinator who works 30 hours per week, and a program coordinator who currently works 20 hours. We also employ 3 part-time van drivers, which about an average of 15 hours a week. And then in addition to our paid staff, we rely really heavily on our dedicated volunteers who help with day-to-day operations as they do Meals on Wheels, they help with programs, running programs, receptionists. We have, according to the 2024 census, we have 5,067 residents aged 60 and older. And this growing population continues to drive demand for our services and programs. We also have a nutrition manager. Her name is Judy Goneroff. She is employed by Elder Services of Worcester, but she is in the senior center, so we do Meals on Wheels and congregate lunches. And just in 2025, we delivered 20,868 Meals on Wheels lunches to the homebound residents here in Auburn, and 8,452 congregate lunches were served. We have a SHINE program, which is a volunteer who's certified, and his name is Pat Morris, and he will come to the center and meet with people, or he'll do phone calls. And that was about 138 residents that he saw last year. Transportation services are provided through the WRTA. We have a contract with the town. It is $47,889, and that covers the driver's salaries, the fuel, and the vehicle maintenance. The town covers the insurance costs. What else can I tell you? So the town's operating budget supports staff salaries as well as the maintenance, operation, and capital improvements of the senior center. All additional expenses, including programs, activities, instructor fees, and supplies, are through fundraising efforts, donations, and the state formula grant. The state formula grant is based on the 2020 census, $15 per elder, based on 4,713 residents. So we receive annually $70,695, and that funds key positions as the outreach coordinator, fitness instructors, and various program-related supplies. We also have Friends of the Auburn Senior Center who are able to fundraise, and they are a good financial support for the senior center to help with entertainment, to help with if I need napkins, cups, coffee, things like that. They fund us, which is great. So on my budget, the only thing that's kind of a little bit different this year is I'm just proposing an adjustment to staffing. Kristen Pappas works as the full-time recreation director, 20 hours, and then her job is split. So what we're going to do is have Kristen go back to be full-time recreation director because of all the responsibilities that she has and trying to keep up with summer camp and craft fairs and different things that she can't really support the senior center. So you'll see where it says program coordinator, new. So the amount of her salary would fund a 30-hour per week program coordinator, just to ensure continuity of programming and maintain our service levels. And so that's my budget of $203,430.
So just to clarify, Kristen is actually the second line coming off, and the new program coordinator is the line below it coming on.
Yes, $42,030 would be the new program coordinator. And that would be for 30 hours a week. And then Kristen would be just back full-time recreation director. So for my staff, I have just a program, which she is for 20 hours, but really can't do the 20 hours. And then just outreach coordinator, who's paid for by the state formula grant. And then I have 3 part-time van drivers. Yes.
Does that give you 10 more hours then? Was Kristen like a 20 hour split?
Yeah, for
So-
20 hours for the senior center.
Yep.
But
So no-
really, she can't do the 20 hours because she's busy with recreation.
Yeah.
So this would be 30-hour position.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. I think, I'm surprised the town hasn't had a full-time rec coordinator when it was split like that, so I'm happy to see that, and
Yeah, it's hard for her to do both.
absolutely, for sure, so, yeah.
I'm concerned because I don't, and I fully acknowledge I'm just looking for it now, but I don't see that reflected in the DPW budget, that the position will be moving full-time to DPW.
Kristen's position. So Karen can. Right.
If I could, that's going to be funded by the recreation revolving account, Kristen's salary.
Explain it. And you said the outreach coordinator is funded by the,
State formula grant.
I just have a question, just
Sure.
to get to know what you guys do more, not so much about the numbers, but I know there's a number of like private, like Auburn Life Care and Eddie Pond and other places in the town. Do we do anything in conjunction with them to reach the elder population, or do we kind of treat them separately as like a private? Just curious in terms of event planning in conjunction or services in conjunction or anything like that.
Sometimes if they have programs, they will invite our seniors, to go over if they have, say, like in the wintertime, they had a re-stroll. They were invited to go to the re-stroll. Life Care comes over and they'll do like little snack cups during bingo for us. We do kind of partner with, rehab centers. They'll come in, and it's good because they come in for free. They volunteer, and they'll do a program for us. Lutheran Church is going to do, not Lutheran Church, Lutheran Rehab is doing a spring plate painting, if I can speak, sorry. They're going to do something all about chocolate. So we try and get as many programs in as we can that is at no cost to the senior center.
Yeah, okay.
Additional questions?
motion to recommend approval.
Second. Recommend.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Do you have anything CIP related for this?
Not for this year.
Not for this year, right? 28, I think we'll take the first one, next one.
I think there's one coming up in 28, though. I just looked at it.
Yes, I think so.
It's her,
Is that the furnishings or?
your HVAC, isn't it?
Yeah. So that I'm working with Joe Fahey because he's trying to get like the rebates.
Yeah, the only thing is in fiscal year 28, it's a HVAC. That's why we're asking, that's the only thing.
Questions? I think. I think we're good? We're good? Okay. Thank you.
That's it? Really?
That's all we got.
That's easy. Thank you, Karen.
We have library up next. Why have you trouble finding it?
It's right behind. It's all in public services. Yeah, just keep going.
Thank you.
Stored, oh, I see, the library. Okay.
Too far. So thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. Last year when I was here, it was like one of the first things I did after I got hired. So I thought this year I would just kind of provide a little bit of a snapshot of what we've done over the last year at the library and kind of where the money has gone. So just to get started, I've got a few statistics. So in 2025, this is calendar year 2025, the Auburn Public Library welcomed 86,365 visitors. We loaned 97,502 physical items. We loaned 26,814 digital items. We fulfilled 18,676 holds. We hosted 586 programs with 14,407 attendees. We loaned 947 museum passes. And we hosted 6,146 computer sessions for 3,808 hours. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of great statistics from before I was hired to compare to, but I did pull these statistics for loaned physical items from 2024, and that was 86,171, so around about a 13% increase. And just kind of looking at most of our other numbers, it seems like most of our usage has gone up by about 10 to 15% over the last year. So there's definitely a lot of people using the library. Of particular note, so a few highlights that I wanted to pull out. So our summer reading program, library summer reading programs are one of their biggest programs all year. This past year, we had over 700 participants, which is more than twice what we've had in years past. It was kind of an astounding increase, to be honest. Part of that was because we actually did adult summer reading this year as well, so it wasn't just children and teenagers. We actually had adults participate, so that helped. But we did also see an enormous uptick in children and teen usage as well. We've launched a number of new collections. A lot of these were very highly requested. One of them was the Library of Things, which, for folks who don't know, Library of Things is a kind of non-traditional lending collection. So it's things like tools, like a sewing machine or a drill set or a portable DVD player. We had some larger toys for kids and things. We've launched that to enormous success. People had been asking for that for a while, and it's been very popular. We also kicked off a video game collection this year. We're lending PlayStation 5, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch, and actually Nintendo Switch 2 games as well. The Switch and the Switch 2 games have been very, very popular and have been being lent extensively. I always make sure to word this very correctly. We are also circulating graphic novels for adult patrons, not adult graphic novels. That's something different. So these are, just graphic novels with, themes and content that are more appropriate to an adult audience as opposed to, kids. But that's something that's pretty standard in libraries these days. It was requested by patrons, so that's something that we're doing. And lastly, lastly from this list, we've done a lot more, but we kicked off the Hoopla streaming service at the library. So this is a library streaming service. It functions like any other streaming services. Patrons can log in, they can stream movies, TV, music, books, audiobooks, all kinds of stuff like that. The library is billed, so we don't pay a flat fee, we're billed per item that patrons borrow. That being said, there are caps and things that we have in place, so people can't just go crazy and destroy our budget. But it's a very, very popular service. We kicked it off a few months ago. In my experience, I've been at a few other libraries that have launched it as well. Usually takes a few months for it to get going, but then it will pretty quickly become one of the most popular, most used services. And then just to kind of finish off this list of highlights, we had an enormously successful trick-or-treating program this year. The day before, yes, it was the day before Halloween. We had almost 300 kids and adults come into the library to do trick-or-treating. We had different booths set up around the library that were staffed by either library staff or our board of trustees or friends of the library, just giving out candy and little toys and things to the kids. We also had 2 professional costumed characters. You can see in the picture there, we had Spider-Man and Wonder Woman come in, and there was a line out the door of people to meet them. We're hoping next year to involve the town manager's office, police, fire, the rec department, basically anybody else from town who wants to be involved. But it was a big success, and everybody seemed to have a lot of fun. One of our major accomplishments of this year, well, I mean, we did it in January, we voted on it in January, but it was the past year we've been running, getting together a new strategic plan for the library for 2026 through 2030. It was a year-long process. We conducted surveys, focus groups, something called a SOAR exercise, which is like brainstorming strengths and weaknesses of an organization with community members, our board of trustees, staff, the friends, just anybody involved with or interested in the library to collect data to find out what people actually want to see from the library over the next 5 years. And some major takeaways were building more community partnerships, expanding programming and collections for all ages, improving the library's physical space, and supporting the library's staff. And certainly anybody who wants to see the strategic plan, I'm happy to get you a copy. It's also available on the library's website, along with all of the appendices. Those are just kind of the results of the surveys and everything. So we'll be breaking down the goals of that strategic plan. Since it is for a 5-year period, we'll be breaking those goals down into individual action plans that we'll be implementing each year going forward. And we're currently working on our fiscal year 27 action plan. So with that in mind, our fiscal year 27 budget was designed based off of this strategic plan with a few particular goals, increasing staffing levels to allow for additional evening and Sunday hours, or Saturday hours, increasing the number of programs targeting an adult audience and increasing attendance at those programs, expanding the library's collection, focusing particularly on new and popular items, and providing the staff additional professional development opportunities. So this is the most important slide. I'll just kind of go point by point with what's built into the budget this year. So it's including an additional $28,639 to fully fund our reference librarian position. So last year, in our budget, we asked for a reference librarian, and the town manager said that we could fund it for half a year, basically. That's why we just hired that person. So this just reflects her salary for the entire year going forward. An additional $5,000 to change the youth services librarian position into the assistant director and head of youth services position. So this is something that the town manager has been asking me for. This is something that the board of trustees has been asking me for in order to create just more continuity with the library, a clearer chain of command. So this would be the $5,000 currently in the budget plus an additional, so $10,000 added to that position. And just since I'm here, the person that we are promoting is fantastic and has just done an amazing job revitalizing our youth services aspect of the library. An An additional $12,640 to convert one of our part-time library associate positions into a full-time library associate position. This would be in order to support those additional evening and weekend hours. Then we would be functionally backfilling this person's part-time position for $20,723 to hire another part-time person to, again, bolster those evening and weekend hours. An additional $3,700 to the travel and conference line. The strategic plan talks about this, but I know it's something that I've heard from my trustees and from the town manager's office as well. We're really looking to support our current staff, to really bolster them, to cultivate them, to help them develop their skill sets, both for personal enrichment and to help them provide better service. Not that they're not fantastic already, but provide better service to the community. Just ballparking things, it's like $150 to $200 to send one person to a conference for like a day. So the $300 that we had really was not going anywhere. A few of us went to a conference this year, and I think that cost like $1,500 for just a few of us to go for a few days. So we definitely need something a little bit more robust. And then $32,000 to increase our material budget line. So this is to, meet the additional requests from the community for more new, popular, up-to-date materials. We also, and I think we've talked about this before, but the library is required by the state to expend 15% of its operating budget on circulating items for patrons. So since we're adding all of this other stuff, we have to increase that line as well in order to maintain our accreditation from the state. Oops, I jumped ahead. No, I didn't. Jump back by accident. And then also this includes our contractually obligated increase for union employees and a 2% cost of living increase for non-union employees. The few things from the budget that we asked for that were not included in the town manager's recommendation, $43,787 for a full-time senior library associate reference assistant position. This is a little bit of future planning since we've just hired a reference and programming librarian. There's a phenomenon in the library world called reference burnout. A lot of libraries tend to chew through reference librarians really fast because they're just on the desk all the time, facing patrons, answering a lot of more involved questions. So creating this position would give a little bit more breathing room to that person and give them some time to have off desk to do some other things, which since they're a programming librarian as well, they definitely are going to need a lot of off desk time. $6,264 for a part-time library page position. A page in library terminology is someone who handles a lot of the more basic functions of the library, reshelving books, taking hold items that are put on hold off the shelf, that kind of thing. So adding this person would just free up some of our other staff to do more involved work. And then just an additional $9,000 for materials funds, which we would need if we were adding these additional things. Let's see. So that kind of wraps things up. I hope everybody feels like the funding for this past year was used in an exciting way. I feel like it's been a very exciting year for me. We've done a lot. It's been a lot of growth. It's been a lot of fun too. So.
Questions? Trevor?
Yeah, just quickly, I didn't realize, I just want a clarification. The 134,000 for materials needs to be 15% of your total budget? Is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Just on.
It's mandated that as the budget goes up.
Oops, I took that.
Yeah, no, just to quickly, on 913,641, 15% of that would be 137,040. So I just want to make sure we're in compliance.
Yeah, we can use, there's a few other things that we can do to balance that out. So yeah, I was aware.
I just want to make sure from a compliance perspective, we're not out of range for anything.
Yeah, no, there's a few other things we can use to cover that. So yeah, no, I appreciate the second pair of eyes though, definitely.
And then just as obviously you talked about the strategic plan, you came with transfers before about increasing material. In a kind of evolving electronic world, what does new material look like in terms of, I saw it said you read about basically like 4-to-1 in terms of physical copies versus digital copies, but I'm wondering if part of that has to do with supply. So what does the strategic plan look like in terms of digital versus physical? And if it's increasing in a digital way, is that number going to continue to like shift, or, I'm just curious what that looks like.
Sure. Yeah. I will say, so I was working at a different library during the pandemic when we saw an enormous spike in our usage of digital items, which I've been led to believe was pretty consistent across most libraries. That did come down a little bit then after the pandemic, but not all the way. And also physical items also increased. So, I think in general, there's going to be a steady shift up of digital materials, and maybe that will bite into a little bit of physical materials. But in my years of libraries, even with the pandemic and everything, I haven't noticed digital taking a huge bite out of the physical materials. It's more like everything is kind of just going up in kind. The one tricky thing is digital stuff is much more expensive than physical
that's
stuff.
what I'm thinking of is if we're trying to, if the need in the community is to have more digital and we're investing in the digital and we're not getting as much material as we want. So, obviously that's a balancing act that that's, part of what you do. And what I'm here to ask about.
Yeah, I can tell you we have a meeting scheduled tomorrow because I knew I would be here tonight. I have a meeting with my manager scheduled tomorrow to start talking about exactly this kind of thing. So, it is a balancing act. And it's unfortunate that the publishers kind of rake us over the coals with this type of stuff because, the types of ebooks that you as an individual could buy for like $20-$30, it's like $120 for a library to buy, and you only can use it a certain number of times. So, I think you're right. I think we will be seeing the portion, if not the quantity of items, at least a portion of the budget growing.
I guess just, in light of that, obviously the 15% thing was something I was unaware of, and I've been doing this a while, so that's egg on my face for not remembering that or realizing that, but,
it's 15% for our community because of the size. For different communities, it's a different percentage.
Yeah, I'm thinking just in terms of, over time, like, seeing it actually go beyond 15 if the needs are, there to, if we're seeing it again in certain ways to get there. So, just trying to look ahead. Appreciate the feedback.
Yeah.
Patrick?
Would it be fair to say a 15% for a community our size? Could that be a fair?
Yes, it's based off of population size, so, yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that, because we've been on material, that year-to-date, you only have 60-something thousand spent. The 13 you're moving today is 75, but it sounds like, because we're adding, that before year-end, this actually helps because you need to you'll spend that, but you needed the 13 as well.
Yes, it's, when I met with the select board a few weeks ago, I also mentioned this. So a little bit of background information about library land. There's been kind of two major distributors of physical items for libraries, Baker and Taylor and Ingram. 2 months ago, Baker and Taylor went out of business. So we're down to just the one. So Ingram got slammed with orders from people who, right around Christmas time, from people who were pivoting away from Baker and Taylor. So for about 2 months or so, there was a real big delay in things that we were purchasing. So this number actually doesn't reflect totally everything that's, So we've spent more than that, but it's just starting to come in now. And it seems like their delay, they've kind of straightened that out, so.
Got one disclosure. My wife is a member of the Library Board of Trustees. I am also in that photo behind that creepy mask, as my wife and son. But
Thought you were going to be the Spider-Man. The
I'm not a pro. No, you can tell my pose isn't quite as good. So the one question
I may have done that on purpose.
Pandering sometimes works. The one question I had was. In the past, I know we've had a lot of trouble filling positions. So I was just hoping to get a quick update on like where we're at from that perspective. It seems I've noticed more staff, but I figured I'd give you the opportunity to talk.
Yeah, no, I think it's safe to say we are past that problem now. The last position that we posted, the reference librarian and adult programming librarian position, we had over 50 applicants. So since I've been on board, we've hired a full-time library associate, full-time youth services person, which that will be the assistant director and head of youth services, and recently hired reference and adult programming. So obviously, assuming that this budget passes, next we'll be looking to hire a part-time library associate. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to grow the library. I would say the positions that we're recommended to get this year, along with the handful that hoping to get in years down the road. That's what I see as really needing to bring us up to kind of what I would consider fully staffed. So that's my goal.
I'll just say my kids are 5 and 7. They love going to the library.
Oh, great, good.
Get everything. Just from like a business owner standpoint, though, and I know you haven't been there that long, so it's just an overall question. If you could give like a summary, like you're saying, you guys are moving 10 to 15% more material and stuff, but 20 to 25% increase, and if you look at the salary from 23, just in 3 or 4 years, it's more than doubled. So just like a summary, especially for people at home, if they look at this and
Sure.
say, "Oh, what's going on there?"
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. One, I would say when I came on board, we felt understaffed. Like for a community of our size, I came from Shrewsbury, which is I think a little bit more than twice Auburn size, and we had close to 50 employees in the library. Where when I came on board, we had 8 here. So. Definitely just to, and they seemed kind of stressed too, just from having to cover all those bases. So in the interest of just kind of preserving staff sanity, I think we need to boost that up a little bit. Also, like I was just saying to Mike, once we've gotten these couple of positions on board, I don't see an immediate need for anybody else. So this is kind of just, I know it's been a big boost, and I appreciate the select board and the town manager and the finance committee supporting me in this. It's not going to be a continual year over year 20% increase in requests. This is just kind of to get us back to what I think is sort of a baseline for what the community should have. I mean, obviously, library service, there continues to be a demand for it, and every community I've worked at, there's year after year, there's more and more interest. So I suppose at some point the community will just have to decide what they want to prioritize in funding. But I would see within the next year or two things stabilize a little bit as far as what I'm asking for growth-wise.
So this is a question for Karen. The fiscal year 23, 24, 25 budgets, those are actuals, right?
That's correct, actual expenditures.
The other thing I was going to just mention is that my recollection, having been on this board, I think for all of the years that are covered, is that we typically budgeted significantly higher for library associates, and we often had positions that went unfilled. So we spent $333,000 in fiscal year 2023 on salary, but we budgeted significantly more than that and just consistently underspent every year. And so obviously this is an increase. I don't want to pretend it's not, but some of that increase is just a reflection of the reality of actually having people in the positions that the town decided we needed to fill. So.
Andy?
I just want to say thanks. I know, like you said, this was kind of your first official business last year, basically. And I mean, this is, I think, what, Kevin says all the time, we're looking for to be able to see, to be able to see 80,000 plus circulations and in that, again, I love the library. I don't go as enough. I should use it more, as should everybody. But, being able to see those numbers, and I hope you continue to kind of keep those and get a better backlog, for the years, because it does help justify, in my mind, expending more money into something like this that is such a community center piece.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've been very focused on since I've come on board is consistent statistical tracking. We had a people counter installed on the door. Before then, staff had just been counting by hand as people came in, and that's very tough to keep up with. So, yeah, going forward, we've got some very solid, consistent statistical sheets. So I'm hoping next year and each following year, I'll be able to show kind of comparative statistics.
Yeah, just to build on what Andy said, great job with the presentation. That's exactly what we were looking for. I love that there's differences between the department request and the town manager's request that just, I can almost hear the conversations you had with the town manager and, the CFO, and you outlined it in your presentation where those differences were. That's a great job. Like Andy said, is when the town's folks look and see $913,000 and maybe they haven't been to the library in a long time, like that's a lot of money. What goes on there? These are the type of things that are justifications. And just to sort of wrap up, I think what you said about the positions and the number of applicants, in my mind, that's telling me that the culture down there has changed significantly. Not only are you getting more people in, more programs, you're improvising, you're adapting to the ever-changing environment. You're doing surveys to see what people want to see and what are bringing them in. Like you said, if you've got that many people hiring, the word's out in your network that it's a
Pass down the copy of the strategic plan for you.
that it's clearly it's a good place to work. So congratulations with that, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
Motion to recommend?
So this one, library total, town manager's recommendation, $913,641. And we have a motion to recommend.
Second.
And we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good. And you do have, I think, something CIP related?
Yeah, I didn't bring that with me, but I think I remember. If you're talking fiscal year 27, it's the
200,000 for computer replacement. And
200,000 or 24,000?
Yeah, I don't think it was.
something big for library. Let me make sure.
Oh, for the shelving.
For shelving.
200,000 for shelving, 24,000 for computers.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's Story's new one, yes. So we are, apologies for that. We are looking to, we're looking to do a library expansion, obviously. When that will happen, exactly what shape that will look like, we're not exactly sure at the moment, but regardless, we really would like to redo the shelving in the library. Right now, it's very big, it's very kind of blocky. The best practices in libraries now is a lot of lower down shelves with mobile shelves. So either as part of that expansion or just as an interior remodel, we're looking to kind of bring down the shelves, make them a little bit more, make the workflow a little bit smoother, just something like that.
Are you saying that you're not going to utilize the upper space, or you're going to make use of the upper space, but you'll just organize differently? It doesn't make sense to take away space to add space, but only to make more space.
Right. So we would actually be getting different types of shelves that were shorter and more mobile, and just adding more of them and positioning them differently.
While you brought up renovations, and there's a lot going on around the facility, and what we've heard for years about the Brady Room going off the back and the expansion that way. Is this the expansion you're talking about? Is that still?
So the Brady Room is no longer under consideration. Yeah, we're not doing that anymore. This would be a different expansion, probably coming off of the back and side, but we're still working on designs for that and working with the Pappas Foundation on funding.
Working out towards the bridge and sort of connecting that.
Yeah, we would want to connect it to what's coming off of Goddard Park and kind of create, make it more part of that broader walkable downtown.
So to be continued on the addition.
Yes, yeah. Hopefully we'll have something in the not too distant future.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is cable and community television, 621. Chris?
Hey,
How are you?
good, yourself?
Thank you for being here.
There you go.
Would you want to give us an overview of your budget for this year?
Well, we're really only changing one thing, that's part-time salary. We're increasing it to, let's see, my glasses, bringing it up to $10,000. We're increasing the pay for meetings over 2 hours to $75, and meetings under 2 hours, we're keeping it at $50. Last year, fiscal year 25, we had 188 uploads. Those are combined meetings, senior center events, concerts, town events, and various ceremonies like swearing-in ceremonies, things like that. Some of them were streamed live, some of them went live on cable, but all of them were recorded and then uploaded to YouTube. I mean, of those, 40 were over 2 hours. Of that 40, 10 were over 3 hours, and one was over 5 hours. So the selectman and town manager and myself thought that the cameramen deserved a raise for meetings over 2 hours, and we haven't had a raise in 15 years, 20 years, something like that.
What else do you have in your budget that you want to go over? I mean,
It's pretty much the same.
So on the budget side, but just so in terms of what people know that your group does besides record meetings, can you just give us a brief overview for anybody at home that may not know? Or
Well, amongst other things, we funded the entire Pappas project.
Which was?
No, pardon me, not the Pappas project. Gleason.
Gleason, okay.
Yeah, we brought the entire rebuild of Camp Gleason. In the past, we did the press box at the high school. We did the fiber iNet for the town, both the town and the school. This year, we're adding more fiber to between town hall and the high school. We've run out of links. We can't go live from Gleason because we don't have enough fiber running between here and the high school where our head end is. So we're scavenging the fiber from Mary D. Stone. Purchase orders already been written. I think it's less than $4,000. And picking up fiber from one of the poles down the street and just bringing it into the town hall here. So, like I said, we cover all town events, all meetings, just about every committee in town. We're willing to do more committees, like Elm Hill, like the water districts, but I need someone from the town to kind of smooth the waters, as it were, so I don't put my cameraman into a hostile situation.
Questions for Chris? Funding sources, your budget's a little bit unique, right? Some of the...
Yeah, we get 100% funding from Spectrum. It's 10% off of their gross revenue based on their basic cable fee, including their shopping network. So last year, this year's budget came out. This year's check was about $254,000. The first 6 months of our new contract, it was about $435,000. Pardon me, the first 18 months was $435,000. So we're still within that $50,000 buffer of our total budget and what we brought in last year.
So which, the original year was because there were that many more people getting that service?
No, it was based on the first 18 months of the contract was based on the new percentage of 5%. That's why it was $435,000. And then the next full year, it came up to $254,000.
That's because fewer people had that package, is that why? And I guess my question is, as future negotiations of that contract, would we try and adjust what it's attached to? My household is using the Spectrum for internet service, but we're not using it for the...
Yeah, we have no say in that. all of that has been taken, all of that decision-making has been taken away from the towns, and it's in the State House. They are looking at alternative fundings, sources, charging a franchise fee for streaming services, but nothing's come of it yet.
So every municipality that runs something similar to what you run is going to be running into the same issue for the future?
Well, we don't have a lot of people. Myself is the only full-timer on that funding. I think I pick up 90% of John's salary and 10% of Mike's salary.
It's 91 something, but yeah.
Yeah.
I just looked. It's in here.
It's a finance committee.
Any questions for Chris?
Motion to recommend?
Second.
We have a motion to recommend and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any CIP?
Not this year.
28. Okay. Yep.
And we changed the table design at Gleason,
I heard.
so it's more
Yeah.
wing now.
Yeah, it's good. Can't wait to see it. Okay, Veterans Services.
Mr. Chair,
How are you,
rest
sir?
of the committee members.
I don't know that we've
My name is Dave Adams. I'm your VSO.
nice to meet you, dear.
I do have a little PowerPoint slide presentation. It's about 40 pages, but just kidding, it's 4 pages. Try to keep it simple, everybody. Oh, roger that. Okay. So the first slide, first of all, I started here in pretty much January of 25. I hired on, I'm a VSO in Oxford, and I run the Veterans Council of Southbridge as well. So I'm a VA representative and also certified by the state as well to be that VA representative for the town of Auburn. I gave a mission statement up here, but really my job is to take care of the veterans, their surviving spouses, some cases adult children, and also all their family members as well. More times than not, you'll have an entire family come in to have a conversation about benefits for their loved one, or who's a veteran, or even a surviving spouse. I do want to mention in here, I put my cell phone up here. I gave that during my last brief. Every veteran that's in this town has access to my cell phone number and can call me at any time that they want. If I'm out of the country, that's another story, because then I got to pay for the plan. But I don't want to pay for the plan, but I can afford the plan if I need to. But at the end of the day, within 48 hours, they're going to get a call back from me or via email. I want to give you some of the accomplishments this past year. Again, I started back in December of 25. I thank the town manager for hiring me on. I do know the finance director very well, and I appreciate all the hard work she has provided to me as well. But some of the accomplishments was that had to close some accounts that were really old, and we closed those out. We also made sure that those that were receiving benefits were receiving the correct benefits. And you'll see an increase in spending during the last fiscal year because we made some adjustments. Nobody's fault at this point in time, but we took a look at all Chapter 115 individuals and said, are they getting paid the right thing, or are they getting overpaid, whatever it may be, and we had to readjust and calculate. So my number one job is to communicate with the veterans and their families. The fiscal year 26 accomplishments include utilizing other people's money. That's a big thing. We're the last stop. So if we can't get a VA pension, a compensation, whatever it may be, mass health or whatever it may be, then they come and we utilize the Chapter 115 funds. Another accomplishment, with the help of the town manager, restarting the Veterans Advisory Committee as well. We'll be having probably our first meeting next month. Ensuring that our audits are done monthly and on time and correct. Understanding that for every dollar that the taxpayers of Auburn spend on a veteran or their family members under Chapter 115, be it flags, burial, Just regular Chapter 115 benefits, 75 cents comes back to the town, reimbursed from the state. Currently, we're working on a Veterans Day Resources Day, understanding that this is an entire district. Southbridge, Charlton, Auburn, and Oxford belong to a district. I work in both Oxford and Auburn, and a friend of mine works in Southbridge, who is the actual area director in Charlton. So we're trying to combine our resources to have one large resource day and then move that around from town to town. And I'll be honest with you, you're probably going to get a lot of people from Worcester and Western Mass to come in as well. Every year I have to recertify for the state through the Executive Office of Veterans Services to be a VSO. And then I have to recertify every single year to be a VA representative as well, to be able to work on federal funding. Working with the local hotels to house veterans and their families. Also, once a month I go to the senior center. And I spend 1 hour there on a Wednesday. I think it's the third Wednesday of every single month. And we're starting to see an effect where veterans or their families are coming in a little bit more and more. Some Wednesdays, there's nobody. Other Wednesdays, there could be 3 or 4 people that just walk in. And obviously, one of the biggest things was the HERO Act. Town adopted this past year, I think it was clause number 22I, based on the CPI. And I do appreciate it, and so do the veterans of this community. Obviously, I've given myself some objectives to do and accomplishments. I've also got to make sure that I have goals myself that we work with, and I'll keep this really brief for you. The objective is to provide veterans, surviving spouses, and their family members with the proper benefits, be it town, state, or federal. Goal number 2 is to continue to improve the communications with the town itself. Re-updated with the help of IT, the website, or the web page for the Veteran Service Office, Facebook page as well. Not many people on it. It's been dead for a little while, but we'll get there. Also, any type of parades or resources days or anything like that, I advise usually your American Legion and other veterans organizations within the community itself. And then last but not least is training. So the training is I have to spend a whole week at a conference to be VA recertified. And it'll reflect here within the budget for this coming fiscal year. Also, I have to recertify through the state as well to be able to do the Chapter 115 benefits as well. Last but not least, the budget. So this year, I did request to the town manager and the finance director an increase of about $15,000 within your Chapter 115 benefits. That being said, there are reasons behind it. When I took a look at the budget from last year, I noticed the last few years it's been level, $115,000, but cost of living has increased every single year. And right now, taking a look at the budget that Karen gave me the other day for this fiscal year, we're right on cue for that 115. But we also still have to buy flags. And if there's a funeral that pops up, even if the individual veteran is not on Chapter 115, the funeral homes will come to us if they have nowhere else to pay. So that we have to do the paperwork, and we can pay up to, or the town can pay up to $4,000 for a funeral. Again, 75% is reimbursed. Tomorrow, somebody can walk through my door and automatically qualify Chapter 115 and get up to about $1,500 to $1,700 a month. So we're going to go way past, we could possibly go way past what your budget for. And my thought process behind that, speaking with the town manager, was it seems like we'll have to go ask for a transfer every single year. I'm going to tell you right now, to be honest with you, you're going to go over that budget come next year if it stays at 115. Reason being, cost of living went up 2.8%, and that increase starts July 1st of every single year when we recertify the veterans. Last year, I believe it was there was a transfer around $5,000 that came to you guys as well. So that's my reasoning behind that. When it came to the payment, obviously, there's an IMA with Southbridge, Charlton, Oxford, and Auburn for the area director, which helps pay. So if I disappear tomorrow, he or she covers this area automatically. So the individuals are getting paid constantly. Also, supplies remain the same. And the conferences, I believe it went up a few dollars. Every year, like I said before, I have to be VA certified. That cost is about $500. I do work for the town of Oxford, and I'm asked that the two towns just split that cost. That conference this year is in Reno. I'm not going to Reno. I'm going to be online watching them in Reno. So be there. And then also I have to belong to the organization, which is NACVSO, which is a County Veteran Service Officer organization. There's only certain organizations within the United States that are qualified to be a VA representative. You can't just be Bob off the street and say, here you go and sign your name. You can't go to court with them. You can't do anything. You can't even talk to the VA without authorization from the veteran. And lastly, there's a couple organizations that I do belong to, most VSOs do within this community, which is Massachusetts and Worcester Veteran Service Officers Association. So that's pretty much my little spill. Open to any questions you may have.
Questions?
I'm just curious. Obviously, there's VA funding that from like federal and state level, and you're saying like are we the last line in terms of if a veteran needs something, they're going and reaching out to a federal organization and then to a state level, and then where like the final or.
So there's so many resources out there. They ultimately will call me because I work here in Auburn. You can pull up the VA website and you'll see my name on there. A VA representative can represent any veteran throughout the world. Chapter 115 can only be represented by that town.
Yeah.
So it could be, every case may be different, and it's a good question. Every case could be different. So it could be, let's say somebody's on Chapter 115, but I find out they're only making $900 a month on Social Security, and they have $5,000 as assets. Doesn't matter if you have a car or your house. My first job is to take a look and line out, see what you qualify within the town and in this state, but can we use other people's money, the VA? Can we apply for a pension? Maybe they don't have a disability for their service. We can apply for a pension. That also includes their surviving spouses as well, if the veteran served during a period of time which qualifies for it. Hope I was able to answer that question for you.
No, that's helpful. Thank you.
It's all over the place. There's a lot of red tape, but my job here is to make it smooth for everybody all across the board.
Right.
Additional questions?
Motion to recommend?
Motion to recommend, in a second. All in favor?
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Okay, we have the police department up next. Thank you, Chief Mills, and bring Deputy Chief Charlton with you, so thank you.
Members, thanks for hanging in there and taking the time, obviously. This year, as you know, the budget process was a little bit differently, run differently than it had been in the past. And you were able to see what we asked for versus what the town manager recommended. And, I've developed kind of an appreciation for the way this process was run. It was valuable on both ends of the spectrum, I think. And I do have a little bit of, well, more than a little bit of sympathy for the position that the town manager was put in, because she was given, a mandate from the committee and from the board, and it kind of put her in a spot where, we're asking for what we're asking for. And, I believe that our ask was based on data and it was a conservative ask. But again, there's realities, and I'm not unaware of the fiscal realities and the needs of other departments, and you, obviously just tonight we heard, from the library and from services and all. It's been, like I said, it's been a different process, but I did learn a lot during the process, and I think it was a worthwhile venture as far as that goes. The PowerPoint, we're going to breeze over it. We provided it to you. It's more or less drilling down on the need or the reason for what we asked for as far as the number of patrol officers that we asked for. So we'll kind of go through it quickly. You already know essentially everything about Auburn and where it is, so we don't really have to spend much time on that. But what is important to know is that, just the workload and what the actual work that's being done. What we've noticed is not a drastic increase in calls for service necessarily, but there's been an exponential increase in the amount of time that our officers are spending on each call. So if there's only a moderate increase in calls, but the time being spent on the call is growing, that leads to, obviously more time spent on calls, and several calls, most calls require at least 2 police officers at that call, some more than 2. If it's a serious accident, where traffic has to be rerouted, you can end up with the entire shift there, and if you get another call, then now you don't have that ability. And the way we utilize mutual aid is a little bit different than the way the fire department would use it. We're kind of left with what we have. So generally it's, we came up with a number of 9,040 hours actively handling calls for services. The motor vehicle stops, the arrests, the firearms and the search warrants. It's all part of the workload. But what it is that the work is compounding, just like it says. And there's a need for additional police officers. And in order to continue, I'm proud of the way that the department offers services and the services that we do provide. And I don't want to take a step backwards. I can't support that. So I think it's important to continue to offer the same level of services to the town that we do. So that's kind of where our ask was driven from. We can go through that. Next. What's important to note here is that our minimum staffing level has been at 3 patrol officers and a supervisor for about 20 years. It hasn't changed. It's been the same throughout that period of time. And that's the minimum. So that's what our actual minimum staffing level is. As you see, 73% of the shifts last year were at that minimum staffing level. And that's what's basically minimally allowable. It's the lowest threshold of what we feel is safe. But that hasn't increased, and what we proposed was, in an attempt to increase that. And we've been running a 3-sector system in town. We'd like to expand that to a 4-sector layout and kind of redraw the lines of where we answer calls and what the sector responsibilities are. Next. This slide it speaks to, some of the high-risk activity. There's 29 firearms were recovered in town last year from people that weren't supposed to have them, so criminal-related firearms. As I said before, 57 search warrants were executed, 470 arrests. So when you take someone into custody, in physical custody, there has to be at least 2 people in the building to process that person, and it takes those police officers, 2 and sometimes 3, off the road for at least an hour, depending on the complexity and the cooperation level. But it could be 2 hours at times. So those police officers are not on the road during that period of time. Domestic violence incidents are on the increase, and the sudden death investigations, those are essentially detective functions. And the increase that we've seen in mental health calls or calls related to mental health, those are extremely time-consuming calls. It takes, we don't want to force any exigent type situation. You want to try to work things out as much as you possibly can. If it has risen to a level where it's not quite at a crisis, but exercise some de-escalation and make sure that people are calmed down as much as possible. But we cannot, those calls take a ton of time, quite frankly. So it's, with officers tied up on those calls, it becomes, there's the public safety, it can be impacted just because now you have police officers tied up for a period of time trying to work through these, like I said, I don't want to call it a crisis necessarily, but working through these types of calls. And it takes our police resources away from where they possibly could be used. This particular slide speaks to the regional dispatch that's probably around 2 years away from now. And, in that transition to regional dispatch, our police officers will take over responsibility. A combination of police officers and obviously civilians will take over responsibility for what the dispatchers currently do. The 911 will move out, and there'll still be some, there's obviously a fair amount of lobby traffic, especially during the day and the evening shift. So that'll have an impact on, the service delivery. And we were essentially trying to get ahead of that because, I don't know if it's in this slide or another slide, but for us to hire a brand new police officer takes approximately 18 months. So from the time you find them on the list to the time that they actually become operational and useful on the schedules, 18 months if everything goes perfectly well. So, I'll get into it when we go through the actual budget, but what we asked for was, we asked for 4 patrol officers and an administrative sergeant at a half-year administrative sergeant's position. Again, the purpose of that is to address the increase in call volume, the increase in the amount of time that we spend on calls, and to kind of align the staffing with what we think the actual needs are. We're seeing a lot more, we're using less force, but we're seeing more violent responses to our police officers, but we're actually using a lower level of force. Obviously we track use of force and we track all of those, but what we're finding, like I said, is again, the amount of call time, the amount of time spent on calls just continues to grow. And there's a variety of factors that influence that, but it's just what we've seen when we've run different reports is they're spending a ton of more time on calls, even if there's just a small amount of call increase. Actually, just go on. You can go on for that. So the real important thing in the corner is the staffing misalignment results in either reduced patrol capacity or an increased financial and operational strain, which, it could be reflected in overtime and or possible mutual aid concerns or usage. But for us, it's really about making sure that our staff numbers actually reflect what we're seeing for call volume. And we're doing the best we can with what we have, and we're just looking to keep people safe, whether it's to keep the police officers safe or the public safe. Our entire operation is based on public safety and keeping the officers safe. So, again, this whole process was different than it has been in the past, and I know I think for the boards and committees, I think there's a value, I think as you said earlier, there's a value in seeing what was requested versus what we came back with. And, and I understand the fiscal realities and I understand the other needs of other departments, but I do have confidence in the town administration, the town manager, and the CFO, and I trust them, and I believe that we will get to where we need to get to, and we'll continue to do the best we can with what we have. So I'll be happy to answer questions at this point. I don't have a presentation for the communications. their budget is largely, we can go through it, obviously, but. Questions?
Yeah, the 4 patrolmen that was originally requested, in your opinion, is that was that kind of like the dream scenario, or was that somewhere in the middle, knowing that you probably weren't, like, what, in your mind, like, what is the need? You know, I watched Chief Coleman with the fire department do this for years, where he would come up and say, our call volume's going up, and we can only, and, you know, I agree, like, we've got this duty to do all of this for all these different departments, and everyone needs more money, but it's all fun and games until your family's trying to call the police and you didn't spend the money where you needed it to, or your house is on fire and you didn't put the money into the fire department. So, but I guess what I'm getting to is, what is that for? Do you think adding those 4 people would get you to a place that you need to be, or is that just like the initial ask? Like, what's your kind of goal for what you would see? And then kind of a follow-up to that is, I know that with fire and I just use, they're not the same, but they're as similar as I can get. I can't really compare you to the library. I'm sorry, they're not the same thing. So I know with the fire department and our town, other towns, there's been different grant programs and things where they'll come in and can help subsidize adding people, and it helps us in the short term to kind of slowly implement that into the budget. So by the time that grant period ends, we've acclimated to that and it's not as big of a hit. Is that something you guys have explored, or something that we're in the process of exploring, or?
Yeah, I mean, great questions, right? And those are great questions. So there currently are no police hiring grants. In the past, we have applied for the COPS Fast grant through the COPS offices, or DOJ. We were unsuccessful both of those times that we did apply in the past, but it's not even being offered currently.
Okay.
So that wasn't an avenue that we could look at. The 4 patrol ask was in my opinion, a very reasonable and even somewhat conservative ask for what we're seeing in the increase. Again, I've harped on the increase in time spent on calls, but when you start when you start looking at the number of the hours, additional hours actually spent, what happens is it takes away from some of those other, I guess we call them ancillary services, where our police officers, one of the things that comes up consistently in town is, the main concerns, and where we've tried to focus our specialty stuff on, traffic enforcement, right? There's always complaints about traffic and traffic enforcement, which is great. The schools, we're dedicated to the schools. We have 2 school resource officers, controlling or, handling all the responsibilities within the schools. And they have a great relationship with the school, and the program's excellent. And then lastly, and I've said it before, I think this board, this committee rather, and the select board, is that, we hope you're never victimized. We hope no business is ever victimized, but that's probably not reality, right? So when or if, unfortunately, someone does get victimized, we're going to throw everything we can at it from an investigative standpoint. We're going to use whatever technology is available to us, and we're going to do everything we possibly can to make that individual or that business whole and solid. So we've tried to align our specialty assignments and the people that have been assigned to those based on the priorities of the town. So I believe by the time the transition to the regional happens, and it's not an arbitrary number, once our police officers that are here now, that are in the academy currently, they'll graduate in July. They'll do a 3-month FTO. So at that point, we'll be at 45 police officers that are available for the schedule. But that's a little bit misleading, because in that 45, the deputy and myself are included, and the lieutenants who are primarily administrative, and then those specialty positions. The detectives aren't answering alarm calls or barking dog calls or anything. So it's a little bit misleading. But I believe that if we were at 50 police officers by the time the regional happens, then I think we'd be in a good place, because, again, as I referenced earlier, we're going to redraw our sector assignments so that instead of having a 3-sector system, it'll be a 4-sector system. And, and the time to do that is as we transition to the regional, because we anticipate we'll be switching to a new records management and CAD product to align with the needs of the regional. And that might be I think it's the ideal time to probably redraw things and, re-enter things rather than dealing with what we have now. It would be a large project to try and undertake at this point with the current CAD. So again, I think the request is reasonable, but I again, trust, I trust in the CFO, I trust in the town manager, and we've had discussions, and I don't want to speak for her necessarily, but I know that she supports the idea, but it just wasn't available this year. It's just, it's not there.
I think on that note, I think the town manager did want to.
And I hope it is available next year, but again, I understand, and I appreciate the work that she did with me to try and work it out, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, if she's trying to jump in, I don't want to cut her off, so I'll let her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much. And Chief, you did a great job. I would like to speak on this because it's an extremely important issue, and it's one that I do support 100%. I did not include it in the budget for this year. I will be including it for the budget for next year. I have spoken with the chief and also the people at the dispatch center. And at the very earliest, it'll be a 2-year turnaround time for the dispatch center, but most likely towns will be coming in one at a time. So I anticipate it'll be after 2 years. But I think that that will provide us some time to get the staffing in order so that we can ensure that the lobby doesn't go black. That is one of our biggest priorities. We want to make sure that it's properly staffed with both civilian employees and also police officers when necessary. But it also gives the opportunity to provide another precinct to the police department. And that is a priority of mine. And the funds to do that is in what we will receive from the dispatch center. So the reason I didn't include it is not because we don't need it. It's because I just can't afford it right now. And I think that's what the chief is talking about. And I want to speak for myself in that it was a very difficult decision. I don't believe that it's not necessary. I just think we have a little bit more time to make that decision. But this will be back in front of you again in its entirety. And the board will have to discuss and vote on it at another time.
Patrick?
Through the chair to the town manager as well, and to the point we've been discussing, I believe the selectmen voted last August was when we decided, or we made the decision to go regional. And I paid attention in those meetings, and I just want to look for clarification because my recollection was that it was about a 3-year process. There was discussion about the new fire station being built. The staff was here concerned that it was going to happen very rapidly. The union came in and spoke. It was, it was pretty complex. It wasn't as though, it didn't seem like it was only going to be 2 years down the road. And subsequent to that, in a couple of meetings, I have heard that some towns at the time were considered to be going on board with it. And I don't want to mention any because I don't want to pick the towns that have already opted in versus the ones that are still deciding. But there were still a couple of local towns that are neighbors that hadn't decided to go on yet. And so my recollection was that it was really more of a 3-year process, which we're only 6 months into. So I'm just really trying to get an update. Like, is this really going to be 2 years for fiscal year budget 28? Is it really going to be budget year 28 or calendar year 28 going into budget 29? Only because it does make a difference. It takes the police department 18 months or so, possibly, if not give or take some time.
For a new police officer.
For a new police officer to come in. But it also matters, with our representation and when we do on board. So I just wanted to, because, other than attending that, everything is happening behind the scenes. So as a finance committee, we're not up to speed with the current negotiations and if that is accelerated.
So
Right.
if I just may, I attended a meeting on Monday the board, essentially the board meeting of the Central Mass Regional. Myself and Deputy Chief Johnson were both there in Barry, like I said. And so the existing members were there, but now they've created like operations boards so that because we were voted in as joining in the future, we're allowed to vote and sit and to participate in that
You have a
process.
seat at the table.
And exactly. And I think that 2 years from now that's an optimistic number. I think it could be even longer than that, possibly. And whether they decide to take, you have to, and I think you probably do understand, when you bring the Auburn Fire Department and the Auburn Police Department into what is the existing regional right now, we double everything. Numbers, like calls, radio transmissions. Like I was looking at reports that they gave out on Monday. They had 5,000 just radio transmissions, but that's between 5 towns in the month of January. We bring that at least just us. And then if, not naming towns, but, another town that's a similar size to us that has not been voted into it, but has flirted with the idea of definitely coming, they then triple it. So this regional will be, if everything comes to fruition the way that they're talking, it'll be the largest one in the state. That's a fact. And I'm glad that we're involved in it. I still believe in the program. I still believe that it's a great opportunity for the dispatchers. I think it's a chance to professionalize things. It gives them great career opportunities, all the things that we spoke about at the meetings. It also separates out, for our purposes, police and fire, dispatching and call taking, right? So that it's just people dedicated only to police or only to fire for at least that particular time. So there's no commingling, so to speak. There's a wealth of opportunities in it, not just the savings, because I think the savings is a little misleading at times, if you really extrapolate it.
I don't think it was ever intended to be stated as savings. It was intended to be stated as repurpose of funds.
Correct. In the beginning, it's a savings and an opportunity to repurpose or reinvest, right? But, after a couple of years, you do have your assessment and you do pay into it just like you would to, Bay Path or something similar. So, but I still think it's a great program. I still think there's just the amount of logistics that still remain to be worked out and figured out. It's even beyond my mind. Like you start listening and there's a lot. And there's times when I'm not 100% sure that they have conceptualized exactly how much we bring to the table. And that sounds a little, full of ourselves. But the reality is like just the numbers alone, we double their existing everything. Not just personnel, but just call volume and just everything. So it's a large undertaking, and it's going to take a while.
Did Ms. DeVecchio wanted to add as well before I continue, because I know she was almost ready to speak.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt her, sorry.
Sorry, Dory, did you have something to add to?
Yeah, basically the chief just, discussed it. I think it's important for everyone to know that there are a lot of moving parts with this group that we're a part of now. Finding a location was an issue for a while, and I agree with the chief. I don't think they understand what we do bring to the table. But I do know in my discussions with them, and I had a meeting last week where I spoke to a couple of the other town managers, and they feel that some of the smaller towns will probably go in first. That will give us a little bit more time to get our ducks in order. But I think, over the next year, with this whole program and proposal by the chief, that we do meet with the Board of Selectmen again, and we do basically go through the reasons why this needs to be done and work with them and finance so that we're ready for next year, so there isn't any holdups. It is something that's extremely important. I just think we have a little bit more time to be able to do this, and hopefully we can do it for next year.
My closing comments are because one of the things that I took away from this, not so much as a taxpayer, but as a finance committee member, was I know there was a going concern for the union employees in dispatch and their welfare. And it was also a commitment not only to our employees, but to the town that, this would be handled financially to, it seemed like a win-win in a lot of ways. And I know at the time when we had just finished the prior year budget and we were looking at, going forward, that it looked like it would sort of, for the lack of a better way, fold into the new budgets. It just seemed like we were going to be able to do some good succession finance because it wouldn't hit us all at once, both with, on the recurring side of the delay in us getting the assessment and some of the, and this is a poor word for this, but I believe there was a TIF benefit, not in the reformal of a TIF, but that, our expenses would diminish over time. At the same time, the assessment would slowly come in, and we would also see the new arrival of the fire station, and it all, at the time when it was on the floor in the selectmen's meeting, it all evolved very well. And that's really, it's the integrity of the process along with, the concern that, we don't want the fire station to go dark, which you've mentioned. And I'm sure everybody here is watching for our best interest, but it just seemed like it's gotten accelerated. And as a finance committee, I just thought it was, even though it's budget review, this impacts the budget. I'm sure these people will come your way, but I'm sure that as they come on board, they will help strengthen your force as this all converts. So that's why I really wanted to bring it up.
Additional questions on Michael?
I have a few. One of the things I noticed, just difference between department requests and town manager, was on technology support. It was level funded from last year.
Yep.
It does look like we've spent not very much so far this year, which I found surprising. I don't know if that's just timing of bills or.
You're speaking to the 11,252 that's.
It's the one below that. It's 30,889. It's hard to follow.
So Global Data Systems, who we use primarily for our IT support, and we operate under a co-managed model, which means we have a police officer who serves as our court liaison, who also does a fair amount of IT work. GDS runs approximately $3,400 to $3,500 a month, and then we also have our records management package that we pay for in the beginning of July. It's one of the first POs usually, and that's in the $30,000 range currently.
So this is not.
I'm sorry?
So that year-to-date is not actually a year-to-date?
Correct.
Okay,
yeah.
that was my first question. The $20,000 increase, was that because of anything changing, or was that just the increase in?
Last year was, so I've been doing the budget, I've been involved, I inherited the 22 budget, but I've been doing the budget since then, essentially. And historically, each year, GDS has increased their pricing structure in the 6% range, but it's always after the budget has been decided. So I looked at, just increasing as a safety measure, quite frankly. And I think both the town manager and the CFO looked at what the actual spending was rather than, we can always adjust if we have to, if there is an increase that's unannounced. But last year was the first year they didn't increase because I made it known to them that I was shopping around looking for other alternatives. And I don't know if that's why they didn't increase. I mean, that's probably a little full of myself to think that, but nonetheless, there was no increase last year. So I'm anticipating there will be one this year.
My other question was on, as far as on the actual budget that's been recommended is on overtime. I know that that's been a common issue for the fire department, and you guys obviously have, similar shift minimums and coverage issues. It looks like if you look back at the actuals, it really swings high and low in a given year, with like a over $100,000 range and over a 3-year period. So I'm just curious, one, if we increased the officers, is that going to have a positive or a negative impact on overtime? And two, is 325, is that just sort of the best guess? Like, how, obviously you can't
Yeah, I mean,
anticipate injuries and.
I don't like to guess generally, but I think it's based on the idea, what we have, as I've explained, we have more police officers doing more things at a higher rate of pay, which generally will, and I know that the overtime issue has been, matter of fact, the fire chief and I met today, and I actually obtained a better understanding of how they do some of their overtime things. So, because despite being in this town for 29 years and a police officer for 33, I didn't know how exactly they do. Like, I know how we do things, clearly, but I don't know how they did things. Not that it necessarily changes the...
Hopefully you guys shared some best practices.
Not that it changes the computations or anything, but just the way, the way I looked at it, generally our overtime, it fluctuates dependent on, towards the end of the year, the end of the fiscal year, you end up with more vacation time, more leave time usage. So then the
Someone happens to be injured at that time.
the
too,
replacement,
now.
yeah, knock on wood. We've had mostly winter injuries, thankfully. But, my admin has now adopted the saying that I've used over and over, and I said, this is not sustainable. Because I look at the overtime every week, and I'm like, this is not sustainable. So I like to see it at $4,000 to $5,000 a week at most, but there are weeks when it's 18 and 17, and for various reasons. And there's just like the fire department, we track overtime in probably 30 or thereabouts categories. So we know if it's a shift replacement or if it's an admin service or an investigation, whatever the case. So I believe that as of right now, that number is good. And actually, I think at one point, the town manager and CFO had reduced it, but then restored it up back to 325, when we went back and forth in the request and the manager. So I'm going to say that, hiring other police officers, on its face, it should. I don't want to promise, but I think it should impact overtime.
Increasing minimum shifts also has
Right. If you adjust the minimum staffing now you are going to have to fill, instead of that fourth person, the fifth person. So, but supervisory overtime, because of adding the third lieutenant and with the structure that we have and the rules that we have in place, where the lieutenant and the sergeant can't be off at the same time, except for a training situation. We've reduced supervisory overtime considerably. That's great. I had it in one of my pages, but it has achieved the desired effect, basically, as far as the supervisory overtime, for sure. So,
and then to get back to the sort of the staffing issues. So one thing that I really appreciated, Deputy Chief Johnson of the fire department reached out to a number of neighboring communities on the overtime issue and provided a lot of information. And I don't want to pretend that was probably an easy endeavor. But from a staffing perspective, just based on some very quick research that I did, and it is Google level, not particularly in depth, but it looks to me like our budget and staffing is higher than communities that are similarly situated. I think part of that is probably call volume, where we're located. But I guess what I'm trying to say is for me, at least, to support hiring, that's the kind of information that I'm looking for. The staffing survey is great, but it's mostly based on national averages. It's, all the numbers that I was able to find in again, my quick Google search are national or statewide. They're not really talking about similar communities. And so I'm curious, I guess, which communities do you guys think are similar from a population, budget, and complexity and volume of calls perspective? And can we talk to those communities and get a sense for what their staffing are, whether they're happy with it? Because just seeing the numbers, $400,000 for the officers is a big number. And, your budget, some other departments are going up by higher or lower percentages, but a 4% increase with the ask of 11 is a big increase on what is already one of our four biggest budgets in the town. So I guess that would be my ask, is can we start doing that outreach? Can we try to get that information, understand where we're at relative to truly comparable communities?
I walk every morning when I can, when it's not super icy or whatever, like this morning. But I try to walk every morning, and the thought process, gain some clarity and just kind of start the day with a clear mind and everything. Inevitably, though, work stuff pops into my head, and I start thinking about work things as I'm walking. And one of the things I thought about this morning actually was, I have to ask Glenn what communities he used when they did their overtime.
He put together an awesome report, and you should just steal it from him.
Because I remember you would ask, I've been at those meetings, you would ask the questions, and anyway.
And I'll just say,
and the chairperson had.
My mediocre research essentially involved, the state has a database of town budgets.
Right.
So I just went to towns with budgets 10 to 12,000 higher and 10 to 12,000 lower, because theoretically those towns should be around the same area, right? And I even manually pulled in some population data, but some of these are wildly inconsistent, I think, with our needs. There are communities on the Cape where they may have a 14,000 population, but in the summer it might be 50 because of vacation, whatever. But at least locally, and sort of South Coast, there were some communities that I think are relatively similar. Grafton shows up almost every time. Longmeadow, East Longmeadow, Northborough, those are the communities. And again, I have no idea from a call perspective if they're similar volume, similar complexity, but they struck me as similar populations, similar overall budget. Let's try to get a sense from them of what they're doing and what we can do. And then the last question, which I promise is actually my last question. So that obviously, and I'll just put this on the record. Joanna dropped, I think, but she's still here. One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is that the two longest roads and two busiest roads in town are Route 12 and Route 20. They are state-owned and theoretically state responsibility, right? So, what? Yes,
Go ahead.
I will take that noise with absolute agreement. But so if we have a car accident on 20 or 12, are you responding?
Yes.
And does the state police send anyone at any point in that response? Do we get a state presence?
Occasionally. Generally, the accidents, any crash or, anything, if it happens on a ramp from the highway to 1220, the state would handle that because it occurred on the ramp or coming off of the highway.
We're talking 90 to 12 or 20?
Or, 290, 395.
Yeah,
any of
sorry,
those.
yeah.
Sure,
The
absolutely.
interchange, yeah.
So in those ramp structures, despite the fact that Route 20 and Route 12 are both state highways, we maintain call responsibility, we maintain, just the entire responsibility for within the town of.
And is that typical?
Yes.
Again.
It is.
Google level research, but state troopers are perfectly capable of responding to calls on state roads. That's theoretically part of their responsibility. What's our relationship like with the state police? I know that we have,
You're on the record.
secret agent in the office, in the meetings. But
This is an interesting tact of.
no, it's not a tact, really. I've
Interesting
fully
line
confessed.
of questioning.
It occurred to me because I was thinking about the DPW budget, and we often talk about the amount of miles of road in town, but the two biggest roads in town are state-owned, and we don't have any responsibility nor ability to change anything on them. So it just popped into my head when I realized that we had the police budget tonight. It's the same general idea. I understand that they, don't have a devoted Route 20 guy, so it is what it is. But yeah, I'm just curious, is that something that we can ask for? If there are repeated traffic incidents at a specific intersection that is a state road, are we capable of saying, state police, please put a guy here for the next 6 weeks? I'm a lawyer. I have no idea what we can and can't do.
I would not be inclined to make that request. As the chairman pointed out, their minimum has been a desk and two since 1921. So there are personnel available possibly, but I don't think that that's a guarantee. And I think it would almost be somewhat unreasonable to ask the state police to do that for us on a regular basis. They do patrol some communities that.
I see that. I'm not pretending I've never.
That
They're
don't
out there
have
too.
overnight,
but,
don't have overnight shifts, or they don't, when you get out into some of the Brookfields and we have a great relationship with the state police, and that will continue. I don't anticipate that there'll be any changes there.
Unless they see this meeting. But
What's that?
I said unless they see this meeting.
No, like, we are definitely capable of handling all of the calls in the town. I mean, that's not something I necessarily want to visit. Have they helped us at certain scenes in the past? Yeah, absolutely. You know, they're a resource that we do rely on, you know, from time to time.
This is really just a curiosity. Like,
Yeah.
I was thinking about it in the context of DPW.
And just getting back quickly to the comparable community thing, you know, Auburn is, again, you know, as you pointed out, population, daytime or nighttime rather, population, the people that sleep here and live here, that's one number. But what the daytime population is and what comes through town, and then you have to also look at the number of banks, the number of hotels, you know, whether you have medical facilities and you know, the malls.
We have 4 state roads, like.
The mall's not as busy as it has been, but there are other attractive, you know, there's BJ's and Home Depot, and it's, for a small town, we operate more like a small city, you know, I mean, essentially. During the day and evening time, that call volume, I think, is more representative of a mid-sized, you know, city. I mean, I'm not saying it's Springfield or Holyoke, but it's, you know, it's definitely busier than Grafton or, you know.
Absolutely.
And Shrewsbury's larger than we are as population, and they have a larger police department, but call volume, we're really, I don't think that far off from Shrewsbury.
So I will say, I wasn't going to bring up Shrewsbury because it's weird. Their population is way bigger than ours, but their overall public safety budget, like fully, is either the same or less than ours. Like,
Really?
it's very similar. And I don't have the breakdown like fire and police. So I don't know how that works. But it was the one that stuck out to me the most when I looked at the numbers, of like, that's interesting to me. I don't know how that's possible. So, because I mean, they're in a very similar situation, right? They got Route 9, tons of business, tons of traffic. So yeah, anyway, thank you. We don't need to go into it any further, but.
Additional questions? Andy?
Just to follow up on Michael a little bit, so do you have a sense of how much, I mean, crime doesn't stop at our borders, obviously, and we're neighbor, you know, to Worcester, which is a large city. It seems like when I see the posts, I see a lot of posts of, you know, things that have gone on. It seems like it's coming from more from out of Auburn, you know, residents. As you said, we go from 16,000 at night to 30, 40, 50,000 people during the day. Is that a big factor in your policing, obviously, that you have to look at? You know, it's not just the town, it's what influences we have from surrounding communities.
100%. Yeah, there were nothing stops at the borders. You know, it's you know, with the second largest city in the Commonwealth right next door, and you know, when I do run into Chief Saucier or some of the officials from Worcester, they'll joke and be like, oh, you know, we're glad to see them going over to town, you know, over to your town, and you know, not hanging around in our town. And you know, as most of you know, we had a shooting in March of about a year ago, approximately a year ago, where 50 rounds were fired. Well, they hit one person in the elbow and they hit a motor vehicle, but right, excusing the poor aim, right?
Yeah.
50 rounds was still expended. That's a significant, you know, is that happening every day? No, it's not, but it does happen. And as I pointed out to the select board, I think, not trying to scare tactics, nothing like that. It's just gun violence is coming to this town, and the guns are already here. And that's what I think the 29 seized firearms kind of points to. You know, comparably, like the Worcester Police Department, although they're in a little bit of a staffing shortage from what I've read and heard, they seized 147 guns for the whole city of Worcester. We seized 29 with a total of 42 police officers. So I'm not saying it's the OK Corral, but, you know, we are definitely starting to see a lot more of that activity, a lot more gang-related things, a lot more. So you have to be prepared for those things and those kinds of possible outcomes. So.
And then just for a point of clarification for me, so the idea to add the four patrolmen, that is to go to a minimum staffing of 4 patrolmen and a sergeant. And then the precincts, you want to go from 3 to 4. Is that to make it an easier patrol for the patrolmen, like a smaller area?
Yeah, so in order to, just quickly, the way the sectors are drawn currently, like this sector, what we refer to as Sector 1, runs on Route 20 from the Oxford line all the way to the Worcester line. And it encompasses all of the neighborhoods, Prospect, South Street, all the neighborhoods that are, on that high end of Route 20. So if you start at the Oxford line and check every business all the way down Route 20, and then stop and then turn around and check all the businesses going back again, you're only going to hit them twice in a shift, and that's all you'll be able to do. And so that presupposes you'll not have a call. There'll be nothing else that draws your attention away where you have to back someone up. So we'd like to be able to kind of make it bisect the town and split it into 4 quadrants that way, rather than, I wasn't part of the discussion that drew the sectors the way they are. I'm sure there's a reason for it somewhere, and that person is long since gone. But the middle sector is the mall, the high school, essentially the banking sector of town, and but this in the hotel, so they all kind of fall. The financial district.
Yeah.
It all sort of falls in that middle sector 3, and then sector 2 is the higher, like the Leicester Street and the more residential part of town, essentially. So we would look to probably again bisect the town and make it a little bit more even. But when the dispatchers leave, the police station would fall into one of those sectors. So, and again, the manager and I have talked about it. We don't want to park a police officer at the window, looking out the window waiting for someone to get there. That's not what we want to do. But we want to make sure that the responsibilities for calls and call servicing are equally distributed, and that it's, properly distributed, basically. So we believe currently that 4-sector system with, the 4 officers and a supervisor, that would be sufficient.
Just one other thing, I just want to say thank you to you and your officers. I was at the middle school a couple weeks ago. We had a little brawl going with our basketball, and we had plenty of police service there very quickly to make sure there was no more incidents. As the site manager for the league, I was very happy not to have to get involved other than yelling at people to move to some area. So thank you to you and our officers for a quick response on that.
Appreciate it. We are extremely proud of the guys and the officers. I keep saying the guys, the officers and how they do things and the services they deliver. And they're a well-trained group. They're, like I said, they use less force than they can. And, the de-escalation, and we're very cognizant of continuing on the training and making sure that we give the guys those opportunities. And, with us venturing down the accreditation road, now we're really starting to, the deputy especially is really drilling down on, proofs of compliance for the policies that we do have, and making sure that we're evaluating every program that we have, and the people, not only are the right people on the bus, but are they in the right seats on the bus. So we're constantly evaluating everything we do to improve service delivery. I mean, that's really where it's at for us.
It's getting late, so I'm going to keep this quick.
I'm sorry.
We've given, not
You should see the list I have.
But it's, well, I was going to say, just, we've given everyone, I feel like we've seemingly given everyone who comes up here their flowers a little bit. So I just want to, again, say we appreciate you guys. I mean this in no way sarcastically, but Officer O'Brien is bordering on celebrity in our house. I have 2 children in the school department and school district, and he's like a celebrity every time.
They love the SROs.
Fantastic stuff there.
Make good decisions. I'm sure you've seen Officer McCarthy's stickers.
But
We'll get the entire committee.
We'll get you some.
I've lived in the town myself for over a decade. I've had family here for a long time, and one of the things that Auburn has always been is an top end aging community, and that's going to change. As those people unfortunately, move into assisted living or pass away or whatever happens, those are starter homes. The community's going to get younger. The needs of the department are going to evolve. You're talking about, the guns and other things like that. Like as younger people are coming in, presumably younger people are committing crimes more than the 60s and 70-year-olds. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know the numbers, but I'm assuming I'm on the right track. My brother's a SWAT officer in Worcester, so police near and dear to my heart. And I think, I just implore you to continue to hold our feet to the fire in terms of helping you meet the needs that the town manager has, addressed as a priority, and I see as a priority, because we have a necessity to the town, but I think we also, as your employers, we have a necessity to keep you guys safe out there. So, please continue to, give us, any data you can to continue to support that, because, I think it's something we need to take care of in due time.
I appreciate that, thank you.
I won't be too long, I'm kidding. So when Michael mentioned earlier the Deputy Chief Johnson's assignment of the regional issue, and you smiled, I didn't think it was going to be because you two were thinking alike this morning on your walk. I thought it was going to be because you're going to assign the Deputy Chief Charlton a homework assignment as soon as you left the building.
It's not out of the question. I mean, someone will be doing it, yes.
He was taking copious notes over this. So ready to go.
He's a smart young man, that kid.
So my question is relative to, again, the budget is the budget, the request for the 4 additional, adding that additional sector. Does 4 even cover it? I mean, on a 4, you're what, 4-2, 4?
The patrol officers work they work 10-hour days, 4 days on, 3 days off, 4 days on, 4 days off, or 4-4-4-3, right? So 4 days on, 4 10-hour days, then 4 days off, 4 10-hour days, 3 days.
So really the number would, in a minimum,
it would probably be 6, correct.
And that's to cover all 3 shifts. Would you be looking to step this in to say, if you were willing to get 2, would you say the 3 to 11, the evening shift would be where you would start because of call volumes and other reasons, and leave days because you've got traffic cars and other things that could sort of, if the bell rings, you've got other folks that can kind of come out on the day shift.
Yeah, we're
Midnight
still
shift, call
police
volume.
officers. I mean, I'll answer a call if, when things get bad, I'll answer a call. I still have all the stuff and, I'm ready to roll. Still write reports.
Is that like the technical term, all the stuff?
All the stuff?
Yeah, I got all the stuff. I don't want to start pointing at things and make
I
people
don't see that
nervous.
line in the budget, all the stuff.
I have a radio and a pen. How about that? We're good.
So I'm just pointing out that 4 is.
What our plan essentially, what it would be is that, I had the 50-person total, with adding the police officers, and hopefully being able to phase those people in by the time we ended up going fully to the regional. And I anticipate, like you said, that we'll probably be in the tail end of that. My guess is, and it's only a guess, that they're going to incorporate the smaller towns first, get the bugs out, then roll us in, because we're going to make a significant increase, as I referenced earlier, to everything. So I thought if we got to that 50-person total, that then we would look at, over that first year in the regional or so, first year or 2 years, do we need 1 or 2 additional police officers? So that was kind of a wait and see. Let's see, where is it working out? Are we staffing things the way we should be and answering, providing the service that we should be? We have actually reallocated what we currently have, where we did reduce the manpower assignments from the night shift. We added a body back to the day shift and the evening shift last 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Maybe it was a year ago now, I don't know. It was a little bit ago, because we looked at the numbers and we said, well, the call volume is on the day shift and the evening shift, so you put your people where the calls are and that can best service those calls. Not that the night shift, when bad things happen on the night shift, it's bad, but they're fewer and further in between, whereas on the day shift and the evening shift officers, the officers that work 2 p.m. to midnight, they're extremely busy. Like, it is busy. And, and that includes the walk-in lobby traffic as well as the dispatch calls for services, and it doesn't leave a lot of, I don't want to say discretionary time, but that's the word I'll use. It doesn't leave them a lot of time for those other assignments, like I said, the ancillary assignments with traffic enforcement, or even going out and proactively looking for activity, self-initiated kind of activity, so.
Yeah, so my concern is going to the 4, is you're going to, by having the minimum with only, even if you were to get the 4 officers, we're going to see that overtime number.
Potentially.
I think you'll see that overtime number go up because people have contractual time off, people have training days, people have, I'm just pointing out that I think that number's low. And then relative to the dispatch, and which I've had a concern, and again, I love all the stuff that they've said, and I've watched the presentations, but sworn police officers, people are not signing up for this career the way they used to back in the day.
Back when we started.
And now to get potentially, I'm just wondering the staffing, you know, again, not to have a sworn person sitting on that, at that window waiting for somebody to walk in. I don't know the answer. I don't know if it's.
I don't want to waste a police officer on that.
I don't know if it's civilian.
That's not the right word choice, but I don't want to, you know, allocate a person, you know, just waiting for something. Like, they should be out there and they should be engaged, and we can figure out exactly what that looks like. But there definitely needs to be a police officer assigned for that responsibility. Whether they come in off the road. And the manager asked me that question at one point. She's like, well, what do you do now? Well, we call that person, we call, you know, if there's a lobby call generated, now it goes by what the sector is currently. So if somebody from the higher number, you know, higher end of South Street comes in to the lobby for whatever reason to report something, then the Sector 1 officer is going to respond from wherever they are back to the station to answer that call. So it would make the station itself an area of responsibility, a sector. It would be within an area of responsibility. So
we're not talking about an additional 6 to 8 officers just to man the lobby in 3-4 years?
No. It's not strictly for the lobby. It coincides with the transition to the regional, and that is a portion of it. But it's really driven, and maybe I didn't do an excellent job of representing it, you know, in the presentation, but, you know, the presentation that I did provide, the written copy of it, the printed copy of it, those decisions or those numbers are driven by the data. They're driven by the call volume, the length of time that we're spending on calls, and just the increase in calls. The calls haven't dramatically risen, but they have gone up every single year. And you know, and as one of the slides said, you know, the officers stopped almost 6,500. They made 6,500 motor vehicle stops alone, just self-initiated motor vehicle stops, above and beyond the calls for service and, you know, all the other things. So they're an engaged, active, motivated group, quite frankly. And speaking to the leave time thing, I mean, sometimes I liken the police hiring and almost to like professional sports. The people that we hire when they're new police officers, they're under like what I would consider team control to a degree, right? They only come in with a week or 2 weeks of vacation. We're paying them at a step 1 rate for the better part of 18 months, the 6-month academy, and then the full year after that. So 18 months, they're at the lowest pay rate. You know, and then incrementally it works up. But, you know, and that has a flip side to it too, where, you know, currently we have 10 police officers with less than 5 years experience. And 20, I forget what the percentage is, but a large percentage, I forget exactly what the percentage is, have less than 10 years experience total. So there's a mix. A lot of the supervisors are within 3 to 5 year retirement window, which is another issue. But beyond that, we're a fairly young police department.
Does that make succession planning right now?
Somewhat. Yeah, absolutely. The potential exists for, you know, down the road, within a 5-year window where we could turn over almost every one of the sergeants, depending on what they decide to do, but they would be eligible to retire within 5 years. And my predecessor got very angry at me when I answered you a question about succession planning and retirement. But I'm going to tell you the truth, and the truth is, within 5 years, you could lose 4 or 5 of the sergeants, which then results in younger police officers becoming supervisors, and then, you know, trying to train them up. So that's, you know, some of the things we're looking to do is try and get them involved in some leadership training to, you know, try to identify those people and give them at least a base to work with.
I'm curious, you mentioned younger officers. We're finding, the department I work for, that the younger personnel like their time off more than they like to work. We used to just work all the time. So those shifts, I think, that's why I pointed to the overtime number too. Those younger officers
like it.
They want to take
that, as interested in it.
They want to take their time. So, which means that we go to that minimum now. We're going to have to, you know, budget that for the future. That they're going to use their, you know, accrued and, you know, time they earned, but they're going to take it. And
you know, yeah, you're 100% right. They absolutely value time off over, and you know, you should know your audience, you know, and I'm speaking to myself. I should know my audience, and I should know my department, and I do know my department. And, you know, the first department meeting I had, like, you know, I encouraged all of them, make sure you have work-life balance, because I've never really had it. flat out being honest. I just haven't. Thankfully, I've been married to a woman who's extremely supportive and understands the idea of me not being around a lot and has always embraced that, I guess, so.
I'm not saying.
I mean, if you know me, that's probably like, you know.
They might have figured it out, you know, I think maybe they have the right.
But it's, you're 100% right. They absolutely prioritize that balance and, you know, and a lot of it's positive, you know, spending time with friends and family and getting away from this job, you know, per se. Because, you know, not to get down a rabbit hole, but you know, there are mental health considerations and, you know, it does weigh on you physically at times and, you know, could be coincidental, but we've had 2 police officers with cardiac issues in the last less than a year, 6 months. Undiagnosed, just kind of happened, and thankfully they're okay and doing well. But there's 3 of us in the stent club now, so that's kind of nice, you know. I don't know if I violated HIPAA by saying that, but I didn't name them.
No, I
just
didn't.
myself. Just me.
You violate your own. Any additional questions, Rajiv?
Does this end? No. That's my last question.
Okay.
Oh my God.
So we have.
Motion
So late.
to recommend the $5,737,832.
Motion to recommend the town manager's number. We have a second. Michael's on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Before you leave, Chief, CIP.
Oh, in the dispatch.
Dispatch.
Yeah, I was.
Communications. So-
I was, just quickly, sir, I was under the impression that I had a date in my calendar, April 8th, for CIP and warrant articles.
Okay. I didn't know if that's, do we have them?
We usually ask about it when you're here so that you don't have to come
I'll
for
answer,
CIP.
I'll answer whatever questions. I didn't bring anything, but I
No, we
have
why
an
don't we-
understanding. of it.
It's late.
If you want to ask questions about CIP, that's fine.
No. I think it was just, I meant for some of the departments, I wasn't sure that everyone was coming
Nothing's
back to
changed.
CIP night.
Talk about that work-life balance. We're trying to give you a night off if we can.
My watch told me I should have been in bed about half an hour ago. No.
Go in late an hour tomorrow.
I know the boss.
Sir Patrick.
We have communications?
Yeah, I think so.
It's the next one.
So relative to the communications budget, essentially the only real change in the contractual increases, and so it represents a 2.5 increase and an increase for the communications director, the regular 2 and 1, and the only increase was in the we're planning to implement a radio professional services contract, and the cost of that is, right now the quote's $10,000, a little over. So we anticipated sharing that with dispatch would bear $5,000, and then the fire department and we would come up with the other $5,000. So that was where that thinking was. But in essence, their budget it's pretty bare bones. I mean, we we level funded the training, and, the miscellaneous services, like I said, accounts for that contract, or the portion of that contract. And the increase in the supplies clothing was a contractual thing. So they changed the clothing allowance distribution numbers.
So the biggest difference I noticed between department request and town manager was in the dispatcher's line. I'm not great at math, but I think it's around like 28,000. It looks like there's,
Lower thought.
yeah, not great at math. It looks like there's one unfilled dispatcher position. Is the idea just that we're not going to fill that right away?
I believe now, the staffing in the dispatch center fluctuates. We've been fortunate recently to maintain at least 9, but it seems like there's always at least 1 in training where we're constantly trying to.
Leaves. It's like you've never hit 11.
It's been difficult. We did get there at one point for about 3 months, I want to say, and that's over the course of the last couple of years, 2 years, when we increased from 9 to 11. But the new schedule's working out very well. I didn't anticipate, I had some doubts about the 12-hour schedule, the 12-hour shifts, but it seems to be working out fairly well. The overtime isn't outrageous. We're in the grant right now. Most of the overtime is being paid out of the support and incentive grant currently. But it's been pretty moderate, so. Mary Ann, the director, she does a great job with the grants, and she's on top of that thing, and, you know, and she's always listening to calls, so the quality assurance is you know, a significant thing for her as far as what occupies her time, but she's constantly interviewing people to try and get people in to hire and to keep the numbers. She desperately wants to get to full staff and stay there, you know, because it just makes the thing run more efficiently. So it's just an ongoing process.
So, sorry, I guess my question was a bad, like, I phrased this poorly, but the departmental request was for 742,000 and town manager recommended 715. What is the difference? It's not a full position. Is the idea that, like, there's an open position, we're just banking on the fact that we won't get to 11 for the full year?
I believe, I don't want to answer for her, but I believe it was based on essentially the reality is that we have not gotten to 11, so you can leave a little bit of flexibility in there. And I think it was a way to, you know, keep that number lower.
Town manager, do you want to answer that one?
Yes, it was in consideration of what I would call a vacancy factor, which is the fact that they're not able to stay 100% fully staffed, that there's always been a deviation. So so that's why it's a little bit lower.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
Any additional questions on communications?
Motion to recommend.
Any motion to recommend the $930,978 town manager recommendation? Have a motion? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good. And we'll talk CIP on another.
If you want to do it now, that's fine. I know it's getting late, and I'm sorry that I went on and on, but I just.
Yeah.
Over here.
Yeah, there's only, if you'd like to do it now, that's fine. It will get me out of the April 8th, right?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I think I still have a warrant.
Recall.
New questions for then.
That's okay.
So
I have nothing else to do.
on the CIP, the
Sleep.
total hasn't changed from the original to revise, but it does look like we've shifted 125,000 to building security from vehicles. I know vehicles is always a hot topic. So I'm just like, tell me what you're thinking.
Great, yeah, it's a great question, and, you know, I'm glad you caught it, and we get to speak about it quickly. Our vehicle fleet is in excellent condition. When Chief Lemon took over, he was able to, we undertook a borrowing with government capital, and we were able to infuse an extra 3 vehicles on top of what we were getting in CIP that year. And it was to account for some of the additions that have been made in personnel and all that. So we're in excellent shape. You know, I think we have a great fleet management program. The DPW does an excellent job keeping us whole, and they're very good about prioritizing us. You know, once their needs are met, they're great to us. And Sergeant Wildman has an excellent relationship with them, and that works for us. So at this point, based on some of the needs of accreditation, and, you know, I'm sure you're aware, in speaking of Shrewsbury, and I think it was either Abington or Cohasset, there's been some, you know, vehicle-borne attacks on police facilities. There's been, it's not funny, but there's been attempts to burn vehicles. Southbridge had one. The chief in Abington, I believe, they tried to torch his vehicle recently. So again, speaking to the safety, you know, I have an obligation to ensure the safety of the employees at the building and the integrity of the facility itself. So, you know, I know optically it's not great to be putting up a fence and those things, but that's one of the plans. But beyond that, the repurposing of the money is based on just a station security thing. We have to update the access entry points, and as part of accreditation, certain doors have to be secured and they have to be locked at all times, well, except only accessed by certain people. So the system that we currently have, we cannot obtain. It's 26 years old, at least. The access points, we can no longer replace them. So when they break, we can't do anything. You're not allowed, or you're not able to use that area. You have to use a key if you have one. So that's what we're looking to do is increase or appropriately kind of add those access points and secure the doors that need to be secured. and then upgrade the camera system in the building and outside of the building. So that's basically the entirety. The 125 may not get, I'm going to prioritize the access points and the cameras, and then we'll see what the availability is for a fence. And, because, the town has invested in all these vehicles and the amount of money that, and it is, a contentious point for whatever reason. And I understand that, and I'm appreciative, and the manager was, when we sat down and talked about it, we're going to look at everything. We're not just going to blindly go forward and say, well, it's going to be 300 this year, 275 the next year. We're going to look at, do we really need these, vehicles? And if we don't, then we'll repurpose it or we'll turn it back in, and we've been pretty fortunate. And, one of the board members, the select board members asked about, the Tahoes, and the Tahoe is a great vehicle. It's a large vehicle. It's very comfortable to drive if you have one or have driven in one. But I'm not tied to any one particular vehicle. I'll buy what is on the bid, the least expensive vehicle, bearing in mind safety and all those things. But I'm not, basically the police vehicle people, whoever makes those decisions, they artificially, I think, lowered the cost of the Tahoes probably in 23-ish that year. And we all bought them like mad. And then they increased the prices significantly. So now they're pretty much on par with the Ford Explorer PIUs. But I've told our fleet person to look into Durangos, or there's not a lot, well, there's very few sedan options anymore. The Ford discontinued, the Fusion, they discontinued the Taurus. I think they either discontinued the Impala or the Caprice, one of them recently. But with the exception of the Dodge Charger, I don't think there's a lot of sedan options. Well, I know there aren't. So, but I'm open to whatever. The Dodge Durangos aren't 100% proven. I know Worcester they have a few, Connecticut SP, Rhode Island State Police. We've reached out to those people to see what they like, but I'm not committed to one vehicle over another necessarily. So,
yeah, I think, the prioritizing of the patrol fleet, I think the optics and where the questions always come up is the backups, or whatever we want to call the ones that are down below.
Right.
I think that was going to come up because you were here when the DPW asked for $100,000 because of, there is a cost associated with them, whether they're being utilized once a week, every day, or just in case. There is a cost, involved with keeping the oil changes and the filters to make sure the tires don't stick to the ground. And then there's the optics that, it's kind of like
They're just sitting there.
It's the misconception that we have with the fire department. When people looked and see all those fire trucks in there, they assumed there was enough personnel to put 4 people in each one of those fire trucks.
Right.
So I think you may be dealing with a little bit of the same thing when people go by and see, there's 10 cruisers. Either there's 10 people and they're not doing what they should be doing because they think there's bodies to take all those cruisers out and patrol their neighborhoods. So I think there's a little bit of a marketing optics to those cruisers, regardless of we know they may be utilized for, details and emergency situations and things of that nature.
It's a great observation, and a lot of those older cruisers are essentially just for details and for, in some cases, a spare, when one does go in for service. The detail cruisers, when appropriate, it is being billed out. They're generating $100 a day, for usage. But you're right, they're sitting still on a detail, not really moving, and that does lead to some increased maintenance. And we try to make a decision, when a vehicle starts to kind of cost more than it should, is it really worth it? And again, whether it's Sergeant Wildman or John at DPW, they've been great. They've actually pulled an engine out of a car and transferred it into another car. So we've really been conservative about, Sergeant Wildman's very conservative about his estimates of what we need to keep sometimes. And I think sometimes the deputy and I we're at odds with him there, all right, let's get rid of a few. But I think he definitely employs a more conservative, plan. And I really can't argue with it because it's working, in my opinion. So,
I just have one last one. Building security. I know for the fire station building project, there's talk that the systems that they were utilizing were consistent throughout the town. I think the schools, maybe here, would you be going with the same?
Camera system?
Cameras and I think access control. I think still those key, I think whatever vendor, I think they had mentioned there was a vendor and there was a reason why, because there was somebody on contract and there was
The
there was some
cameras
savings reasons
went,
that-
I believe the schools went with Verkada, and I believe that's what was, I don't know if it still is in the town hall, but
I think that's the company that they mentioned for.
I don't know what access point. I could check, obviously, with the school people, whether it's Dr. Chamberlain or someone else that would have that information. But yeah, it would probably be, state contract.
Yeah. The fire chief just mentioned in terms of service and
Continuity and.
and the fobs and like just that, all that stuff, there would be a potential savings. So I was just wondering if you were exploring that.
I know we're expecting a quote before the end of the week, hopefully, on, just so I had a better idea ballpark-wise of what the number was, but it hasn't come in as of today. So,
Just back on the vehicle, so I think the DPW had implemented a program called Fleetio. We use it in my company, so I know a little bit about it. Is that something that you utilize for cost analysis as well when you're deciding on vehicles? Moving off vehicles, because it has that capability, so I just wondering if it's more than just kind of conjecturing and kind of,
all of that analysis is done by the DPW. We don't do that independently. They do that, but with Sergeant Wildman's input, and he meets with them at least weekly. They got someone, there's a new person there that's dealing with the budget and kind of overseeing some of that, but he has a great relationship with the lead mechanic, and they work that out. And when it does come to the point where, it's an upside down,
Yep.
we're not gonna throw bad money, on good money after bad.
Yeah.
Like there comes a time we have to be done with it. But I will say one thing about that is that if you look around town, you'll see our decommissioned vehicles
Around town.
still being used, and they are still being used. Like the person that cleans this building uses one of our old cruisers. The fire department has used it for training purposes. They've put it in a lake, a couple of, so they continue to serve some purpose even when they're decommissioned from our usage. So we're definitely exceeding the 3-year 10,000.
Yeah.
We're getting, we're into the 10, 11-year period of some of the vehicles, and we have a good progression where frontline vehicles then become, out to a single officer, for one purpose only, and then they go back down to detail, and those evaluations are made before we make those decisions. So there's a borrowing, right, in 27 too, I believe?
Nope.
Yeah, right here, the 90.
It's all free cash.
Oh, it's going to be free. Okay. Well, that saves me some work. Thank you.
That's it. Any other questions, CIP related vehicles?
I know it's not free. No, I didn't realize it was free cash. That's great. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, what do we have left here? We do the transfers. We've done.
The April 9th ones we've received, right?
Right here.
So we have the April 9th meeting, 2025, is that correct?
Yeah, they're really old.
Oh, okay. We have plenty of time to review the April 9th of 2025 meeting minutes. Hearing if there's no questions on that, other than accepting them, consider them accepted. Okay. And we have not, so we'll be getting those. We'll look at the February 26 ones at our next meeting next week. Any questions, concerns for this evening?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. In a second. All in favor? All right. We're adjourned.